say I'm a fool, but they never got the news that I'm a wild one. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child.
Yes, by the way, Mike, I 100% agree. That was not Quran.
Wait, what?
In your intro, it said not Quran. I was like, yeah, it's not Quran in Voltron. That was actually...
Dude, that's been in my theme song title sequence for a long time. It was from the first time we made a Voltron joke.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, that was my first time actually seeing it. I usually end up getting here late. But yeah, that was actually what killed that entire show for me. Well, actually, that was the main reason, was how they portrayed Quran, but there was a few other things too. Why did they create a new character, not just go with Sven like the original? Was always one that kind of threw me.
What are you talking about?
Well, in the new Voltron, they created a new character. I don't know his name. I don't remember what it was.
But the guy that basically was the leader of the group.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't Keith, obviously. Keith was in the Red Lion, I believe.
Okay, that actually is Sven. It's not a new character. They just, instead of using the Americanized name they chose, they used the original Japanese name.
But Sven was in the Blue Lion, not the Black Lion.
Not in the Japanese version of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they decided to basically be more correct to the original Japanese interpretation while not trying to be as disrespectful as they could have been in certain things with the remake. And technically, this was the second remake of Voltron. So make of that of what you
Actually, I think there's been several remakes. Remember that Voltron 3D? Oh, God, that was a mess.
Yeah, except that was supposed to be a continuation of the original show.
That's why it was a mess.
Yeah. Plus, I always thought the stealth mode lions sucked.
Like I said, I didn't make it past the first couple episodes of that new Voltron. I don't like that. The way they did King Quran. I don't like that Full Metal Alchemist.
Quran was not the king. Quran was not the king.
No, not the king. Sorry, not King Quran. Sorry, just Quran.
He was basically the major domo. He was the king's advisor, but he was the Alfred character.
Yeah, but I don't like how they portrayed him. They did kind of this Full Metal Alchemist thing, which is what turned me off to Full Metal Alchemist. I was just like, I don't like this fourth wall kind of break-in, freak out stuff. Nah, it's not for me.
Yeah, I didn't really like the character of Quran. When we did their reviews, we did a bunch of jokes about it. And as for the other character, the one you said that was placed, I even make the joke about it being Sveno, and that would mean that what I called him. Because, as I said, in the original English version, we called him Sven.
Yeah. Yeah, we called him Sven.
So, I made a joke about that.
Now, granted, I do remember reading up about Voltron, and when they got the rights to the Voltron show from Japan, which obviously is not called Voltron in Japan, they literally had no translators, so they literally made the stories up based on the artwork, based on the animation.
That's true and not true at the same time. They had translators, but they basically were like, we're going to make it up as we go along because the storyline that they have wouldn't translate, or at least they didn't think it would translate very well for kids in America.
Yeah, you're right. You corrected me correctly. They did have translator, but the storyline just wouldn't fit with what they did. Because if you actually remember, when in the Japanese version, the character who's Sven, he's actually killed off.
Yeah.
And then it's his brother in the Japanese version that shows up. But in the American version, it's the same character. It's Sven.
Yep. I do know that. And, but that was because in America, no one's allowed to die except for, robots or not things that aren't considered alive. At least at the time period. But yeah, we made a bunch of jokes about that kind of stuff. Because the character that I can't remember his name now either, but the Sven character, that was Caddy's favorite character. And after like the first season or two, he actually does leave, and Keith becomes the leader of Voltron, and he actually takes the Black Lion, and then they all get their colors that match the American version.
Oh, is that when Princess Allura goes in the Blue Lion then?
Yep.
Or was in the new version she was always in the Blue Lion?
I don't think she's in a lion until he leaves.
Yeah, that would make sense considering when Sven left, that's when she got in the Blue Lion.
Yeah.
It always bothered me that the Black Lion was such, so bad, looked so poor, so badly designed. All the other lions were great, but that Black Lion barely looked like a lion.
Well, the Black
Lion,
Lion,
a tank with legs.
Yeah, it's because it had to be twice as wide as the rest of them to make the chest area.
Yeah, that was always what made it stand out. Was it had to be the chest area of
These
the lion.
Gimpy little legs.
Yeah, very gimpy legs on the toy.
Hey, I have the toy. Damn it, he looks pretty good.
I think.
Didn't he have the best head?
He gave the best head. Is that what you said?
Didn't he have the best head?
Well, he formed a lot of heads.
Yeah, that's true.
All the other lions had little freaking sprocket necks and heads, and he had the big open them up.
The second reboot of Voltron, or the one that came in between the one the Netflix one that me and Caddy reviewed and the original. I actually found the Black Lion toy for that set, and I gave it to Caddy as a present. That one was much better designed as a lion.
I don't know. While it was better designed, I'm sorry, I still go for the classic.
And I didn't realize it was soon to be Yvette's birthday. And of course, she has to say, I heard he gave the best head.
That's what I heard too.
And one thing I found out, British got some filthy mouths.
Now, one of my favorite insults of all time is to call somebody a gutter snipe. And that's a British way of saying someone who's really not good. I'm not going to go into exactly what it is, but it's you don't really hear it in America all that often.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem when it's not an insult where it's like when I hear drinking the piss, I'm like, what does that mean? I had to find out it meant, are you full of shit? I'm like, why didn't you just say you're full of shit?
Because slang is different across, even just in the United States, the slang is different across the nation.
Oh, yeah. You go to New England, you go to the South, you go to the Midwest, you go to the West. Yeah, it's all different. When I was at Bridgeport in California, we had the British Royal Marines at our training office, training with us. And we'd be sitting down there having conversation with them. And normal talk is fine. But man, when you start getting into the slang, we are like all talking English and only half of us knew what the fuck the other half was saying. Because you got the British guys talking in their slang and we're just kind of like deer in the headlight, and we're talking in our slang and they're just kind of like, what the fuck does that mean?
I'll never forget when I was a kid and I was being introduced to my stepbrother's new wife. And at one point she asked if she could have a pop. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's the Coke. Yeah, pop is a Coke.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. I thought she was asking me to hit her in the mouth.
Oh,
I was like 7 at the time.
How many hits did it take before you realized?
Well, the cops had to explain it to me, so.
That'll be 6 years of your life you'll never get back.
Well, it's interesting because where I grew up in, I grew up in the Midwest, but I grew up in the southern part of Illinois. And to us, it was always Coke. To my wife, who is a Hoosier, it was pop. And then I guess somewhere in the country, soda is a normal term used.
According to most graphical charts that actually chart where this stuff is, where these things are said, soda is the most common version.
Soda is the correct version. Yes.
Pop or fizzies. Oh, I haven't heard fizzy in forever. But she is right. We do refer to them as fizzies sometimes.
I like Dandelion. The piss isn't having an American beer.
I'm going to give that to Dandelion. The majority of our American beers do suck. There's no way.
Speaking of American beer.
That's why I thought it was so funny when I heard, the whole Bud Light thing going on. And I saw an article that said, well, we haven't lost anything on the global market. I'm thinking, do you think those Europeans are really drinking more Bud Light or less because they care?
Actually, yeah, they do. They do drink American beer in Europe a lot.
Well,
what, Elihu?
What do you mean by a lot?
Elihu, you there? I can't hear you over the music. It's too loud.
My big joke about the whole beer situation here is basically out of the top 10 largest brewers or brew companies in America for beer, all 10 have gone woke in the last 3 years. So my question is, if you're not buying from Bud Light as the woke beer of choice, which woke beer are you buying? Because you're still buying a woke beer.
I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't hear you over Elihu's. Where are you, in Las Vegas or something?
Yes, we all know, and he overslept because of music.
Well, I can tell you what beer I'm drinking right now.
I can't read the label.
Hey, I'm drinking coffee.
Well, for me,
is it loud coffee?
No, it's soft coffee.
I just want to say I distanced myself. I was not asked. I did not know that this rainbow flag of hate would be behind me when I came on stream. It's missing the black. Yes, it's missing the black and brown stripes. You're racist. It's missing the triangles. You're transphobic. And I cannot be associated in good conscience. So,
I'll make it even worse for you. I'll go all the way back to Christians actually and Jews had this flag all the way back in Genesis. Just to be a pain in the.
Well, I can argue that Genesis is basically a fairy tale, but I'm not going to go into that.
Hey, I do not disagree. There are some parables and some things like that, but I actually buy into the Noah story.
I don't, only because there's no actual evidence for it, and anything that has been tried to point out is not an explanation.
Actually, I found a very good book that actually explained that, and it actually did it in a very scientific manner that I thought was very well done. And it did it for a lot of things. It even got into the 12 plagues, where it even got to the last one where it said the firstborn. It's like, okay, look, we can't scientifically figure this one out.
There you go, Mike. Sorry. That's the one I wanted to share.
Oh.
I'm already very disappointed with the fact they have a fucking Raiders one. I don't care if the Raiders are now in Vegas, and I don't really support the Chargers anymore. I still hate the Raiders.
Yeah, I know.
Raiders finally got out of Oakland.
Yeah, they've been in Vegas for about 2 years now.
I don't follow football.
Did you get the poo one?
No, they were sold out of the poo ones. There was a little bit of line, and these poos were gone by the time I got up there.
Well, I just saw a picture of one. What are you talking about?
So what do you
These
right there? Oh,
these are display poos.
Oh, I thought that's where they grab them from.
They're like the AI of food.
They're going back here, dude.
So what you're saying is people in Vegas like to eat a lot of shit.
Well, why don't you just get the pink one? I see they had the pink one in there, and just get it dipped in chocolate.
NB.
No.
They like to eat a
I
lot of
saw
shit.
the
That's why there's a
Raiders
Raiders
thing.
one.
Yeah, I saw the Raiders thing. I like I said, I don't watch football. I watch I watch baseball, but I watch mainly the Cardinals because I'm from St. Louis. Oh, Elihu, when did you shave your sides?
Oh, my donut.
Elihu.
I did not do it on purpose. It was a barber's mistake. The barber, basically, I found a cheap little discount barbershop. I'm like, okay, why not? I just get my sides evened up and my neck cleaned up. So the guy's like, okay, puts my hair up, does my little lining, everything, does a little zip, zip, and does this in the back of my head with things. Zip, zip, zip. I'm like, what the hell? I felt it was clean and smooth. I'm like, okay, this guy's good. He's getting a nice little tip. He's going on my sides. I'm like, next thing I know, I feel this cold breeze in my hand. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't know he was shaving my head so smoothly, so fast. I didn't even realize it. I yelled at the guy. The guy sitting on the chair is like, that's fucked up, man. He didn't say anything about shaving. I walked out, did not pay for anything, and eat it up myself.
Oh, no, man. It works for you, though.
Yeah, but I didn't want it that high.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, you do look like you just came from brain surgery.
That's kind of impossible because nothing's.
You know what? You know how to fix this? You just go get one of those square Band-Aids and plop it on the side of that bald head and bald spot. Make it look like you actually did have some kind of.
Just tell people you're a trepanation aficionado.
Oh, what?
Oh, you can always just finish it and just dye your hair blue.
Trepanation? No. You don't know what trepanation is, NB?
No. Actually, I don't know.
Hold on.
I've heard the term before, but I've never looked it up.
Whoa. This is dusty. Oh, shit.
Here you go.
Where are my napkins? Oh, pocket.
Oh, okay. Oh, that ancient Greek.
Oh.
Okay. You know, I'm watching this show, and I don't know if anybody watched this show when it was on, called Suits.
Oh, yeah, I used to watch Suits all the time.
I'm on this episode I thought was really interesting because it kind of highlights a difference from 10 years ago. So this woman finds out, and she's a black woman. She's the one who played Wash's wife in Firefly. I can't remember the exact name of the character. She's also a...
Jewel? Are you talking about Jewel Satire?
No,
I'm not talking about Jewel. No, I'm talking about his Wash's wife, the black woman who was, Malcolm Reynolds. Her character's name is drawing a blank on me.
You're talking about the princess now or whatever who married Meghan Markle?
I'm talking about Firefly.
You're talking about Gina Torres.
Thought you were talking about Suits.
Yeah, so she's in the middle of, she's in the show. She's a founding member of this law firm. And she comes across something that deals with a former person who hired her, and she finds out there was an asterisk next to her name. And the asterisk wasn't because the asterisk was because she was a woman and black. And she knew about it, and she has been livid about it because she is pissed, because she's like, you hired me because of my race and my gender, not my merits, and it pissed me off so bad I became a better person. But still, you know, we now have people nowadays who just want things handed to them because of, you know, race or gender, when, you know, 10 years ago, the idea of this would be disgusting.
Well, hold on. So when Star Trek The Next Generation did a casting call and they specifically asked for a black actor, that was being racist to play Geordie LaForge?
There is okay. I'm actually going to answer that question very simply. There is such a thing as selective discrimination. We have it in the military. We have height discriminations. We have weight discrimination. We have gender discrimination. Now, when you're making a movie, okay, well, if you say the character is black, obviously you'd want to hire a black character, correct? I mean,
there was no discrimination. There's no illegal discrimination in the hiring practice of Hollywood, according to the federal judges.
There's what?
To me, you're making a piece of art. Okay, you're allowed to decide if you want to have a black character, a white character, an Asian character, an alien. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not the same thing as hiring a lawyer based on their race.
Exactly. You're setting up. Okay, I take a movie. I kind of look at it like RPG. When you're creating a character, you start with a foundation and then you build on it. And then you're going to a casting call, and that's how you decide which person is there. They are hired, yes, partially based on, yes, this is a black character. So we are interviewing by people. This is the best black person who did the character. That's who gets hired. So yes, they got hired on. They got interviewed on selective discrimination because the character is intended to be black, but they hired based on merit, based on he was the best person to play that character.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jordan, it's not racist, Jordan.
Let's take it this way. Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. Both good choices, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Michael B. Jordan, the Creed series. Good choice, correct?
I would say so.
Never seen the Creed series, but Michael B. Jordan is a great actor.
Well, remember, for that specific thing, Michael B. Jordan is playing the son of a black man. So for them to cast almost anyone other than a black man to play it is kind of weird genetically, unless it's going to say he's adopted. But
exactly. But it's still, by definition, selective discrimination. But it's okay. It's not a deal breaker.
Here's what Jordan is saying. Jordan is arguing essentially that is being racist.
No, it is not. Hang on. Let me see if I can get a little summary. Okay. Hollywood is making the Bruce Lee story. They hire Asians, and all of a sudden they have a part right here, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm a 35-year-old black man. How come I couldn't get this part? Well, because Bruce Lee's brother was not black. We're looking for a specific part. Just like Bert said, it's an art project. It's the own artist's interpretation of this. We want this person right here for this kind of person part of the role.
The problem is that it's perfect. The logic, and I understand it. You know, you're hiring a black person, you're hiring an Asian person. I'm all for that. But for some reason, you can't say I want a white person.
Sure you can. Again, I'm going to go back to Star Trek on the casting call for Jean-Luc Picard. They specifically mentioned they wanted a white person.
But that was 2000.
Yeah, but that's
It
dumb.
was
You can get a white person.
1988. That was 1980. You can't
All
do
right.
that.
There are multiple casting
Easy
calls that say
fix.
we're looking for a 20-something-year-old Caucasian male or a 35-year-old Asian male. There are certain casting calls for certain diversity
Yeah.
groups and categories. Like we're looking for this
And I-
person.
Easy fix. Easy fix.
And Elihu's
Yeah,
absolutely
it-
right. I've seen casting calls because I checked the certain things for.
Yeah,
Three
of
of the
course
wild
they're
kids-
gonna hire it.
Hold on. 3 of the Vile kids are very into theater, and I've been trying to show them, if they want to do anything else, I've been showing them the casting calls, and there are many casting calls that are specifically looking for Caucasian girls or Caucasian boys.
And why is there anything? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, okay,
But yeah, they're not saying
okay,
white,
for
they're saying
example,
Caucasian.
well, like for example, Aladdin, the live action Aladdin, the one live action Disney I've actually enjoyed. They
Okay, I
said
agree.
we want to have people of Middle Eastern descent in this movie. I said, well, that makes total fucking sense. The story set in the Middle East, the animation was, they portrayed the characters as Middle Eastern. I said it made total fucking sense.
Well, when it comes to animation, I don't care who voices the character. If the character is black, I don't think the actor has to be black because the character is being portrayed as
Voice
black.
acting.
All right.
Yes,
So what's
and
wrong
that-
with?
Have you
I'm
guys
sorry. Can I just
seen
get
History of the
one
World
thing
War
out?
II?
I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing. What's wrong with if the good actor you want is black? Just hire the black guy, and
And that has
the
happened
character
before,
needs to be. Oh dear God! Do I have to have a timer when I speak?
Yes.
And all you have to do, if the character is white, then you make the character white. I mean, I'm pretty sure we have makeup, and I'm sure there's been an example where we've had one person looking like a completely different race for an entire movie.
Look,
Have you
we
guys
have-
ever
Robert
seen,
Thunder.
Simple fix.
have you seen History of the World Part 2?
half of it.
Okay, well, I'm going to do a little spoiler for you. The original in the opening part of it, Jesus is black guy. Then toward like episode 7 or 8, they talk about remarketing, rebranding for new, brighter Jesus for the masses. So basically, they edit themselves. It's like, okay, we're going to do this for the certain part right here. Yeah, it's talking about editing, dude. That's exactly what you're talking about. Specifically editing. Just because somebody's originally a certain ethnicity, the mass of the population wants a different person, different diversity.
Just put him in whiteface.
No.
End of story.
No.
Tropic
You
Thunder.
end up finding out
Exactly.
this person. Okay, for example, in
Made it
casting
funny because it
call,
was blackface.
I'm gonna give you a casting call example. Just because you go in for a casting call of a certain character doesn't mean you won't end up playing another character. For example,
Exactly.
Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy Summers, originally went up for Charisma Carpenter's role.
Yeah.
And Charisma Carpenter originally went up for the Buffy role.
Oh
But
my
they
God!
And sometimes if you're that good of an actor and they'll be like, you know what? I know this character was meant to be this background or whatnot, but this actor was so good, we might have to rewrite it and, rewrite their background in order to fit the actor because this actor did a really good job. Sometimes
Bert,
they-
you okay?
Yes. and
Yes,
we've
I was
seen-
just so enthralled by the fact that
shouldn't-
sometimes actors get different parts.
It shouldn't
What
matter
is-
what color you are. If you can act and you're really good at the role, who the fuck cares?
But it
Have fun,
matters
Daniel.
if you have an artist, are you going to say a painter has to paint a specific race? What if they want to paint a white person? They want to paint a black person. They want to paint an Asian
No.
person.
Paint whoever the hell you want.
Well, fine. So the same thing. Cast whoever the hell you want.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's their
So
business.
I want to
It's-
cast a
it's-
black person.
While
Go
you're
ahead.
painting,
Mostly I would agree with you, Bird.
As the Trace Ekin song says, if you're gonna paint me in Birmingham.
They don't have the balls to do a black Pinocchio.
Well, does that make sense in context?
It makes very much sense, but I think it hits too close to home.
Why?
Probably.
Pinocchio's made out of wood.
The fuck?
Enjoy your
it's
hiking,
the
Dandelion.
He's
care.
made out
I'm
of
not-
wood.
Dandelion Club. I'm not going to be able to play Jackbox if Steve does it tonight because I'm going to be on the other end of the strip.
Oh, you're actually going to go out on the strip tonight and have fun?
I have been for the past couple nights.
Oh,
It's
good.
too loud.
Yeah,
for him.
we don't know anything about it because you haven't streamed. You've only been showing your little photos of your pink donuts.
You only show pictures
I have no time to
of
stream.
And the closest we got to a party was inside your hotel, which you were bitching and whining about how loud it is being in a hotel right next to the frickin' strip.
I would much rather see Elihu's pink donut than his brown starfish, okay?
Brown Uranus.
I'm surprised they even let him on one of those ATVs. You don't have a license, motherfucker.
I know. I had fun though.
And they let you near the horses. You're surprised you weren't just hammering them there.
Well, technically, if he's only on federal property, he wouldn't need a license because licenses are issued by state, and about like 75% of Nevada is technically owned by the federal government.
Damn it. I didn't upload it yet. Shit. Hang on.
As
Let
a
me upload this picture. I
four-wheel
wanna show you.
vehicle that's motorized, you should need a license.
The ATV was modified.
Not on federal land.
The ATV was modified for second and third gear, which means there was no gear changing, which means it was on easy level setting. So there's
Which
really no
means
need for a license.
They made it idiot-proof, which means any idiot can get on it and kill themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, they basically made it idiot proof.
Dandelion's complaining you didn't sneak into Chris's wedding.
I was horseback riding last night. I couldn't. I told him that.
And wait, Chris was getting married in Nevada, and I was not his minister. I spent
You would have done better.
$5 to become a official priest of or minister at the United Church of Bacon in Nevada, so I could marry people in Nevada. And he didn't ask me to officiate. I am offended.
Wait, why isn't this not working? Come on.
Chris Knight got married.
To himself. Didn't you hear that?
And that's a lot of technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have heard the minister that was there. He was so funny.
It was streamed.
Yep.
Yes.
If you were in the underground, you would have found out.
Well, I had a Jeopardy title.
There you go. There you go, LDG.
It's
your planet, but Uranus is mine. I like that. Why didn't you get a selfie with that? Or why didn't you stand in front of the talk bubble?
Well, get that
Like
as
you
a
were
tattoo
saying.
on your back.
We had a quick 5-minute restroom break, and the driver just pulled me really here real fast. I'm like, picture time,
God.
quick.
Oh, I would have paid him. Let me take a selfie real quick. That was worth. That would be worth $10 right there. Here's $10. Give me 2 seconds. Run out there.
Was that near the little alien?
No, that's actually near where we went ATVing in the Mojave.
Oh, I got one for you, right? So
I went horseback riding 51 miles away from Area 51. So technically, I was really close there last night.
So here's the thing when I got with one of my new clients.
He was stationed at Groom Lake for like 2 months or 6 months or something like that. I don't know how long.
I'm sharing something.
Our
Here's a selfie spot. So to the left is the restaurant client, and then the place it was before was called the Yummy Noodle. So they had this sign with an arrow. It says Yummy Noodle. So I guess you could stand next to it, right? And your crotch would basically be right there, and you could take a selfie.
Notice how everyone's laughing at that one, LEG.
Ha 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 ha.
Because it's funny,
Whoa, what the
and
hell
the rest of
happened
the
to that
guys are
picture?
just retarded.
Yeah, I know.
Damn it! I thought I had that. Where'd it go? Oh, duh. Some of the messages.
Thank you, Danny Lyon.
Found it. This
I've
right
heard
here.
of that bar, Groom Lake Place. I don't think it exists. Well,
I was
officially
waiting for the.
it exists. Unofficially, it doesn't exist, I guess.
Actually, officially, it exists now because the United States government had to acknowledge the existence of Groom Lake military base because of a medical lawsuit. That's why it became public.
Oh, they said all I
That
know
was
is my
because of
dad
the
was
movie
there.
Independence Day.
All I know is my dad was there, like during the early parts of the Gulf War. They were testing the feasibility of the F-117 being launched from aircraft carriers, but they
That's what
decided
he
it was
told
really
you.
cheaper to just refuel them midair and fly them from the United States to the Gulf.
That's totally what he told you. It was
No, that's what I
aliens.
found.
Hey,
That's
I
what I
saw-
found in his actual stuff when I was going through his military stuff.
Too busy having sex with
Entrance.
elephants.
This is the entrance to Christmas Dungeon, guys. Who wants to go into the fun dungeon?
Does that mean you get whipped by like foam noodles instead of a cat o' nine tails?
I don't know what's in it behind that door. That was just the door to Turn of the Kings. I saw fun dungeon. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta take a picture of this. People saw me taking a picture. All of a sudden, other people getting on the line like click, 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 click. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, a lot of those would be better though if you were in them, Elihu. That's the point.
Hang on, I'm gonna switch my audio from on.
The good thing is you could just take a picture of yourself with a green screen behind you and then just put yourself in all these pictures.
Well, true.
I could use AI.
Oh, speaking of AI, LDG, did you hear about the guy who's basically going to be disbarred because he tried to use Chat GPT to make a legal document?
Yeah. It's bullshit.
What do you mean it's bullshit?
It's bullshit.
You should have just used Chat GPT to say, please
Well,
double check again.
Do you actually know what happened, LDG?
I don't know the full story. No.
He was basically because he was a New York attorney and not a federal attorney, he didn't have access, or he wasn't paying for access for certain federal cases. So he tried to get Chat GPT to do it for him, and instead Chat GPT made up cases and cited them to try to get the court to agree with him. So it basically lied to the court.
How did you just cite it?
It made up cases.
But how
That
did
never
it cite
existed.
it?
By citing them.
It said
Literally.
it was from, a certain court on a certain date.
And that never
Oh, but
happened.
they didn't. Okay, I'm sorry. By citing, I thought you meant it actually gave reference to exactly where that information is found. Isn't that
No,
what citing is?
When it cited them, those cases never actually existed.
Okay.
Lawyers do
That's
that all the
Cases are
time.
found
All they
by
do is
their
lie.
name. By their name and court.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing you can do. The same
Like-
thing you can do without Chat GPT.
And if someone does it without Chat GPT, they still get disbarred for it.
That's good. So what's the fucking thing? What does that have to do with AI?
I'm just saying.
The AI lied.
Yeah, literally.
The AI is not under obligation to tell the truth.
Oh, that's not very useful then, is it?
You only lie when you're under the obligation to tell the truth.
Document that has to be true.
But the AI didn't know it was. The AI is not a person; it's a tool. The guy lied on a document, whether he used a freaking AI or he had someone else type it up or he lied himself, doesn't matter. AI's got nothing to do with that case. It's just some guy trying to skim and pass his way through life, and he got caught.
Basically,
And he deserves whatever he gets. Well, not really, but that's what public opinion would say.
What he assumed was that ChatGPT was citing real quick cases because
he's an idiot.
Programmed to
another moron who doesn't know how to use AI. Okay, that's the closest thing to AI story I can tell. Idiot uses AI to pass fucking that's it right there. It's like having your AI I don't know if you were smart, if you knew how to prompt properly, maybe he would have gotten away with it. Like if he actually got his own AI and then fed it PDF documents of all the cases that are related to what he's doing, and then asked the AI to come up with something.
In those cases, he wouldn't have needed the AI.
Yes, he would. He wouldn't have to do the work. It still would be a tool to help him get the document.
Did you listen to the story?
Yes, I listened to the story. Did you listen to the story?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so all he had to do is feed the AI the actual documents, which could be hundreds of thousands of documents.
To the actual documents, he wouldn't have used the AI in the first place.
Yeah, if he was diligent, but
because he
obviously
didn't want to pay for access to the documents.
Yeah, because access to those documents are like $200 a piece, or you have to pay like several $1,000s a year for access to all the cases. He didn't want to have to pay for it because ChatGPT was cheaper, and he thought ChatGPT would have access to it.
Yes, exactly. He's an idiot.
I'm not saying he's
still
not.
It still wouldn't stop anybody from, like I said, if he had the documents to help him write the document better
AI
or faster.
Would say, I don't have access to the documents you requested or the documents.
It most likely did say that, and he just copy and pasted. Yeah, it most likely did say something like that because that's how ChatGPT works. Covers its own ass by giving you pre-text and post-text. And it most likely did say something along those lines. But then it says, it'll say, I don't know ABC, but if I did, this is what it would be. Or let me try, something like that. And he just copied and pasted what the middle part was and used it.
If he was really smart, he would have had someone cross-check the information.
Well, exactly.
Minions.
He's an idiot. Idiot uses AI and gets stuck for falsely claiming that, his document was made by himself.
Yeah, but the problem is you realize that because of this precedent, it's now going to make it harder for AI programs to be used by lawyers because they're going to cite this as reasons why it shouldn't be used. And and then
they'll have a million other sites in which it was absolutely 100% correct. By people who used AI properly.
That this guy was caught by a judge who didn't mind double checking what he was reading.
Oh,
God knows how many other judges were lazy.
It was even worse because the judge actually called the Third Circuit Court to try to find out if this case was actually legit, and he was
doing his job
in the case that they cited.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
what would be funnier?
As far as the court is concerned, the guy lied in court under oath as an attorney, and they're not allowed to do that, so he's going to end up being disbarred.
All right.
You're not allowed to do that. They do that all the time.
Happy ending.
Most of the time, though, an attorney lies with the truth.
You know how many attorneys use AI to draft documents?
If you're a good enough lawyer, you do not need to lie. You just need to learn how to spin the truth.
That's what I just said. They lie with the truth.
I know that's what you just said. I think
that's
that
a universal rule.
Hold on. Elijah, I'm not going to bring you up. It looks like you're still having issues.
Hey, Vilemike. One of the greatest classes I ever took in one of my electives for college was critical thinking. And our teacher, who I ideologically disagreed with on very many things, but I got to tell you, he knew how fallacies worked and stuff. And I tell you what, man, when he recommended watching Thank You for Smoking, I was like, Holy shit, that was a great movie. Said if you want to know about fallacies, watch that movie. You want to know how to spin shit, watch Thank You for Smoking.
I have, and I would say when it comes to the marketing part, yeah, absolutely correct.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's the point he was doing. He was a lobbyist for big tobacco. So, yes, the marketing point is what he was going for. And it was just an amazing fun movie.
You're going to want to double check this image down below before you bring it up. It's up to you if you want to bring it up. This is the garbage that recently passed my eyes.
I can't see it that well, so I'll add it. And if I get in trouble for it, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Well, you did already, so.
Well, I'm not going to leave it on.
She was coughing, and it's a picture of her coughing. I guess he paused it on a video or something. Freaking swear, dude. Twitter, I'm like, borderline wonder about Twitter.
Yeah, but I would not have brought that, I wouldn't have left that on the screen if it was anyone really, because it's just, I don't care, not just specifically that person. Because it's
another one with her and her daughter holding up a donut.
Okay, dude, seriously. Who cares?
I don't know. That's the whole fucking point.
Okay, well, I think you can tell that most of us don't.
No, I can't. Not until I do it. That's how it works.
All right, hold on. Elihu, as I said, it looks like you're still having issues on my end, so back out and try again. I'm not going to bring you up right now because it looks like you're still having issues. All right. I was wondering if he thought I was ignoring him or something. I wasn't trying to ignore him. It was when he showed up in the back room area, it was all grayed out. And I just didn't want to bring it up like that.
So notice the Little Mermaid's taking another dive.
Who cares?
Is that pun intended?
Yes, that was pun intended. Well, it's interesting because I'm trying to figure out the marketing strategy.
Yeah. Turn off.
And the reason why I say that is, okay, they released The Little Mermaid. There was controversy around it. We all know, and I'm not going to get into that. But then you had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I think was the next one that focuses on Miles Morales. So when they came out and said, well, racist people didn't go see the movie, I'm like, but people are going to see the Miles Morales. And then the Transformers movie with the Beast Wars era stuff, I knew that would be popular with people. So not surprising that one's going to be number one this weekend. I'm just, why put that movie out amongst all that? Just doesn't seem like good market. I mean, maybe they were gambling on it. Who knows? All I know is,
to me,
all I know is the estimate is it needs $700 million to break even, and I don't think it's going to get there.
Well, the other issue is, let's face it, all these Disney remakes have been basically getting progressively worse. And Lion King was basically broken.
Dude, I didn't even finish it.
All right, do you have your audio turned off or your mic working?
Basically, dude, I didn't even finish it.
Nope. Try again, Alejo.
Hey, Mike. My wife and I my wife and I watched some of the live action. Well, I use the term loosely, live action animations they've done. And most of them have been letdowns that we saw. We didn't really care for the Beauty and the Beast. And I'll tell you why I didn't like it. And it's really simple. I did not like the girl who played Hermione Granger. I thought she was not properly cast for this role.
Don't
That's
get me
just
wrong. I still thought she was beautiful in the freaking thing, and now we lost JP.
She can be beautiful, but I just didn't think she was the right
Can you
casting.
hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah.
But also, one of the reasons why I will not see. Do you know the one reason why I will not see this Little Mermaid movie? Because the songs are getting redone. And I'm kind of like, with Beauty and the Beast. Okay, for me, Mrs. Be Our Guest and Beauty and the Beast, I only want to hear the original. I don't want to hear a remake. When I heard those remakes, the re-singing of it, I just cringed. I was like, oh my God, this is not done right. And then
But
my
you said
wife
you
and I,
did like Aladdin.
we tried to watch that Lion King, and it was just kind of
Oh.
like, no.
And yeah,
But
I'll be honest, I ended up not watching Aladdin because basically I had no interest in it, the live action version.
It was better than the cartoon.
Every live action one I've seen recently that I can't even think of one offhand that I actually enjoyed. So that's why I have no issue in watching it. Now my kids want to watch the Little Mermaid new one, and I'll probably go see it with them. But I personally just have no interest in it, even though I'm still defending the choice in actress.
Dude, the live action Aladdin was great because of the twist ending. I was not expecting that. I'm like, now that was cool writing.
I actually, the Aladdin movie is the only live action Disney movie of an animated that I've seen that I ultimately enjoyed.
I don't know. I mean, I still couldn't get over the casting of Will Smith because to me, he did not fit that role at all.
See, I took it a different approach. I took it as because when I was like, okay, if Will Smith tries to act like Robin Williams, it's going to kill the movie because you can't redo Robin Williams. It's just not possible. Because
but he didn't.
Will Smith did a good job, guys.
Yeah, Will Smith did a great job. Will Smith made it his own character, and I respected that.
And I'm going to respect Mike for not walking around Fremont because the music will get him striked.
I was like, you've got a lot of background noise right now, Elihu.
Yeah, I got a non-smoking room. I can't smoke in my room. I have to come downstairs.
They still have smoking rooms?
Oh, yeah. Most hotels still have a smoking room.
I paid for
I've
room.
not been.
They gave it away.
Yeah, I've not been a big fan of a lot of the live action stuff, but you can argue the Little Mermaid, the race swapping for or against. The simple fact is, I don't think a lot of people were that interested. And I think it has a lot to do with Disney has burned a lot of goodwill. I think they tried to maybe buy too much too quick, thought they were a little too big for their britches. You got what's going on in Florida between them and the government.
Disney has money to burn, so I'm not too worried about them.
Well, they have money to burn, but money only goes so far.
All right. Uh-oh.
What'd you do? Spill your coffee?
No. I was making a joke about Darren being here now. Uh-oh.
Oh, shit.
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah, we're all fucked now.
Why?
Yeah.
No. I was just making a joke about someone else being here because JP's dropped out, didn't say anything. Who's having issues. It's like it wouldn't be about life having issues.
Yeah, my life is a corn album, guys. I got issues. Okay, bad joke.
And Mr. CCDV, yes, of course you can call it that because that's what it's called, and it's been called that for over a century.
I'm not looking at the chat. What did he say?
Am I allowed to call it the Chinese theater when he's talking about man's Chinese theater?
It hasn't been called Man's Chinese Theater in a long time.
I don't
What did they
even know
change it?
the issue. I don't know the issue. I've heard the term Chinese theater, but I'm not
Well,
familiar with that.
Now,
if you
if you called it
if you
man's Oriental theater, it might have a bit more of an issue today. But
yeah, if you watch Iron Man 3, you'll know what the problem is with Chinese theater, because the fake Mandarin goes on a diatribe about it, and it's basically the talking points of those who think it should be changed.
I guess I'm in the minority. I thought that was an interesting fake out in Iron Man 3.
I honestly, I loved that fake out. I know it pissed a lot of people off, but I loved the fake out of him being the Mandarin.
Well, I like the fact. The reason why I like the fact Ben Kingsley is a phenomenal actor,
I
and
think
for
that-
him,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh, what I was saying is, Ben Kingsley, he's a phenomenal actor. He's been in shit. I mean, the first thing I saw him in was Sneakers back in the 90s. And he's always been, one of those really great actors. So for him to be able to play...
I muted you because of the background. So once you go back upstairs...
for him to play an intimidating Mandarin, I believed it. And then for the fake out to happen and for him to do that, I was like, oh, that was brilliant. I was like, they used Ben Kingsley's acting to their advantage. I understand why it pissed a lot of people off, because Ben Kingsley would have played an excellent Mandarin, I think. If he really was the ultimate villain.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why they didn't go with an authentic Mandarin in any of the Iron Man films, mostly because, especially if you had asked somebody who Iron Man's number one villain, who their number one villain is, you would say the Mandarin, because that character has been there since the 60s. The problem is the problem is
in the chat, so everyone has to say hi to Mrs. Vile.
I miss
The problem with including the Mandarin, particularly in the first movie, was it didn't follow Marvel's formula of having the hero fight a doppelganger of themselves.
Well, no, they only ever did that.
Darren,
you did that only in the hold on,
I'm not done yet. And the fact that Mandarin's powers were all based on magic, and magic had not yet been established in the MCU.
True.
Okay, but only in the intro movie do they fight a doppelganger of themselves.
That's why I said in the first Iron Man film, I specifically said that.
Oh, I thought you were still referring to Iron Man 3. So yeah.
No.
He said that. No, he said the first Iron Man movie. He was making a point.
I missed that. I apologize, Darren. You were correct.
I thought the fake out was like I'm happy
to admit when I'm wrong.
I guess I'm so used to LDG.
But the thing is, I was so used to, Ben Kingsley being, that type of character, either if he's a villain, he's a great villain. If he's a hero, he's a good hero. But I mean, just to watch him go to playing the villain to, it was an act and he's just this lowly, pathetic man. I was like, it worked for me. It worked for me.
Yeah, because I think that having an authentic Mandarin was asking for a lot of trouble anyway. And we didn't get a semi-authentic Mandarin until Shang-Chi, where his adversary was another Asian. And that at that point, then that's fine. Of course, they changed the nature of the rings and all that kind of stuff. But there was.
Yeah, I do. So here's my question for that one. I tried to watch the Shang-Chi movie. I tried it twice. I just got bored with it. But if you finished it and you enjoyed it, great. Did you like the ring change choice?
Well,
the thing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are you asking everybody? Okay. Well,
I'm asking everybody.
Okay. The rings in the comics had very established limitations and things, but the rings in the movie, it was unclear exactly what they did, and they kept it ambiguous, and I didn't like that. But I mean, I enjoyed the Shang-Chi movie not as much as some of the the Ant-Man movies or anything, but I enjoyed it.
I definitely enjoyed it, although at the end it became kind of Avatar-ish as far as I'm concerned, because it was almost nothing but 3D effects.
Right.
And
Jeez.
I think as well as they were done in that movie, I don't think they're going to age very well.
No.
But when it came to the rings being bracelets or whatnot, I didn't have an issue with that, other than, if I remember correctly from the comic, didn't each ring have a different power?
Right. There were actual rings that
correctly,
went
each ring
on
had
your
different
fingers.
power.
Yeah, each ring had. First of all, there were rings that went on your fingers, actual rings, and each one had a definite one-trick pony. And the idea was he had 10 of them, so he had 10 one-trick ponies on his fingers. But the other thing that kind of bothered me though about it was that Shang-Chi as a character in the comics does not need the 10 rings. He is effective as a superhero with just his martial arts skill.
Yeah.
Be right back.
And so, yeah.
All right.
Hey, where'd
Now,
you rattle?
to go back to Iron Man 3 a little bit, the part I didn't like about the whole Mandarin bit was when Aldrich Killian says that he is the Mandarin, because that made no fucking sense.
I think there's. I think
he
that
had the tattoo of
the
Fiend
reason
Fang Foom on him,
behind
he's not the Mandarin.
I don't think that was meant to be
I
taken
think that
literally.
was his way of saying he was the kingmaker.
Yeah, because when in the Iron Man movies, what they tend to do is take two of Iron Man's villains and merge them into one anyway. So, for example, Whiplash in the second film is actually a combination of Whiplash and the Crimson Dynamo.
Yeah,
he's got the Crimson
Dynamo shit,
backstory.
That's right, it is.
So then in this next movie, it's Killian, but they've mixed in a little bit of Mandarin in there, and yeah. I didn't.
Well, I kind of looked at it, like I said, I looked at it as he said, "I'm the Mandarin," basically being I'm the guy behind the king.
Yeah.
He's just a figurehead. He's a puppet. And when you look at it from that perspective, it makes better sense. That's why maybe I liked Iron Man 3 better than others, because I saw it from different perspectives than I think a lot of other people did.
Yeah.
Which is,
The thing that I liked about Iron Man 3 was he was up against an adversary that had technology, but it was a totally different type of technology. It wasn't armor technology or of any kind. It was bio science. So, and that's what I really thought was neat about Iron Man 3 was that he wasn't just up against somebody else who had another version of the armor or something.
Well, I like how, at one point where the girl is like, she's threatening something and he just shoots her and goes, "I got an opening." I'm like, well, nobody saw that shit coming.
Yeah.
Like she thought she was so important. He's just like, boom, you weren't that important to begin with.
Well, to be honest, I think one of the best parts about Iron Man 3 was the whole part where Tony storms the compound using just improvised weaponry. Because it shows that he still is a genius, no matter what. Strip him of his armor, he's still a hero.
Yeah,
well,
and the movie, the cinematic Iron Man is just as entertaining to me when he's out of the armor as he is in the armor. So I didn't have a problem with that either. And we got plenty of armor at the end of the movie.
Well, I love the fact that he's like, how far is, from here to there, calculating how far it's going to take for his suit to get there. And then it shows up, and then you have the last guy standing, goes, "Dude, these guys I want nothing to do with it. These guys are crazy." I'm just like, that was a perfect, like, I'm fucked. I'm just going to try and walk out of this.
No,
because
I liked
totally believable.
I liked his panic attacks too, where he started having a panic attack at the bar, and he went into his armor and is telling Jarvis at the time to check everything, check the vitals, and Jarvis comes back with you had a panic attack, and
it plays off of what happened in Iron Man 2 because he was dying in that film. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yes,
well, Iron Man 2.
It was.
His panic attack had more to do with the PTSD of saving New York from the nuke.
Yeah,
because
I'm just saying, it makes sense that he would think of worst case scenario because he already was dying in Iron Man 2. and he's like,
Right,
"Oh,
right.
now there's a new complication."
Right.
Well, think about how that plays into Endgame. Because it was like there was only one solution. Doctor Strange said he went through 14 million different possibilities. And the only solution was Tony Stark had to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, which was he knew that Star-Lord's dance-off wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, when you see that image of Tony looking at Doctor Strange and he's like, one. And that's when he realizes what the one-ish is. And it's like, nobody else is going to be able to save the universe. Nobody else is going to be able to do this but me. So it's going to cost me my life. He snaps his fingers. Which, by the way, I found out, I think I read it. He said, I'm inevitable. And they had to actually go back later and do the I am Iron Man because they originally had him not saying anything. It's like, they were like, this just does not work.
Yeah.
But, you know, when Pepper comes up and goes, you can rest now, was really just heartwarming.
Yeah. I actually thought Tom Holland helped sell that death scene too. You know, because we'd seen the situation reversed in the previous film where he was turning to dust and
you know, you could almost look at that as he lost it. Is you could look at in that version of Spider-Man, you could look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man as this was him losing his Uncle Ben. Not to the extent of when he lost Aunt May and Spider-Man No Way Home, but, you know, still, this was a father figure for him.
Right.
He
One
was
that he
kind
needed
of
too.
de facto. Well, Uncle Ben was never really talked about in the MCU, so he kind of was the de facto Uncle Ben.
Right. Yeah. So.
But at least the MCU saved us from having to watch another Uncle Ben die.
They chose not to retell the origin with the spider bite and things, and I thought that was a smart move. But there's a lot of things about the MCU Spider-Man that I don't like. I don't like the fact that now this might change now that his world got reset essentially in that last film. But I mean, there were some times when I actually thought of him as Spider Bitch because of how he was letting people walk all over him and stuff. But he showed growth. He showed that he was maturing. And honestly, when I think back to how he was portrayed in Amazing Fantasy 15 and then the first few issues of his own title back in the 60s, he was very immature. I mean, he gets his abilities and he doesn't even think about fighting crime. He wants to go into show business, And,
not only that, in like the first 15 of his original comics, he gets his ass handed to him like 7 times.
Right.
Well, think about this too. Remember, he's in this costume, and you said Spider Bitch. And if you look at the original, 60s stuff, while he was a superhero, he was maybe popular, but he was still the nerd and still got the bullying and still didn't necessarily always get the girl.
Yeah. The Stark outfit that he had with the AI, I thought was unnecessary, but it was something that he eventually lost. Obviously, now he's back to an ordinary tights outfit, kind of like what he was before.
Well, Darren,
now here's something I couldn't figure out.
Darren, correct me if I'm wrong. In the first 20 or so issues of Amazing Spider-Man, isn't Spider-Man? He's outsmarted by both Tinkerer, Vulture, the original Owl, Doctor Octopus, but he at least how many other characters literally outsmart him, and they get away.
They get the better of him many times, and that was one of the things that because he had to struggle mightily for his victories, and and that's what made him so endearing.
And I
Okay.
completely agree. And it's like, how
does
often in
anybody
comic books does the
remember
hero
who
fail so often?
Vilemike, do you remember who Dr. Octopus was actually engaged to be married to at one time?
Aunt May,
Aunt
everybody
May.
knows that.
Yeah, everybody knows that, yeah.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah, well, that's a real minor thing. I mean,
I don't know. It was a great issue to read.
In terms of maturity level, though, a lot of people don't remember that in the first issue of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four guest starred, and he tried to become a member, and they're like, no, you're not mature enough to be with us, and then even like 60 issues later, he tried to join the Avengers, and he was not able to take instruction from Captain America, and that's one of the reasons why he wasn't allowed membership. He was too hot-headed. He was too emotional. Basically, is what they were talking about, and that's a sign of immaturity. And so the image, we're used to Spider-Man being this 20-something who has his struggles, but he does the right thing, even though his life is going to suck as a result. But he didn't start that way, and I forgot a lot of that when I was watching Tom Holland. It wasn't until later, especially after he met the other Spider-Men from the other movies and things, that I was reminded of this.
Some of the best Spider-Man stories, honestly, dealt with Peter Parker and MJ.
Oh, yeah.
In the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, it was literally soap opera drama, but it worked because it made sense, because it was like so different to have a superhero who has one thing about Spider-Man. He was always that superhero who still tried to have that particular life.
Yeah.
And then you had MJ. And I would love these issues where MJ would get mad at him and she'd go out to decompress. So what she do? She goes out and sending shit. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so classic MJ.
Well, MJ was a later addition. I mean, the classic Spider-Man scenario is he's got this medicine from a hospital on one side of New York, and his Aunt May is dying in another hospital on the other side of New York. He's got to get the medicine to her, but then like Green Goblin's in the way. That's the classic Spider-Man dilemma, where he's trying to do something. He's trying to use his abilities as Spider-Man to get somewhere to save somebody from his personal life, but then somebody from his superhero life is interfering. That's the classic scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, and listen, I like Michael J. Straczynski for what he did for creating Babylon 5. I'm not giving him a pass on One More Day ever.
I think One More Day was Joe Quesada.
Yeah, it was. J. Michael may have had to put his name on the title, but he kind of had to do what he was told, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I
don't have Joe could fucking put his own character insert person as Spider-Man's love interest, because he was like, well,
I didn't.
That was fuck. I'm sorry, Carly was a stupid character.
I didn't have a problem. I don't have the problem with a Deus Ex Machina at all in the comics, because they've been there forever, and as long as they're not abused and everything. But to do it with Mephisto, who is the secular Satan of the Marvel universe?
No, not Mephisto. Mephistopheles.
Well, they're both Satan characters. They're both Satan analogs.
No, Mysterio is, well, unless he's changed.
Mysterio is a special effects artist with a globe on his with a
Mephistopheles is the one we're talking about.
Mephistopheles is nothing more than the full name of Mephisto. Marvel's Mephisto is who he made a deal with.
I thought Mephistopheles, I can't even pronounce it. I thought that was a different devil character from the Ghost Rider series.
No, that's Mephistopheles.
Yeah, they have different. They have different looks and everything, but I remember that Mephisto was named Mephisto so that Marvel could trademark the name.
Yeah,
because you can't trademark Satan or Mephistopheles. you can trademark a certain look, but like Thor, for example, in the Marvel's version of Thor, typically, if I came out with my own comic called Thor, right, I could do it as long as he didn't have blonde hair, as long as he didn't have certain
That's
visual
not
cues.
necessarily true because Vikings traditionally had blonde hair.
Thor is most often described in the mythology as having red hair and a beard. So, you could go that way.
Oh, well, you could go either way.
When Walt Simonson, who used to draw the Thor comic, did his own Thor comic, he did a couple of things to make it so Marvel couldn't come after him. He called the comic book Ragnarok, and he said it after Ragnarok, where Thor has been resurrected as a Draugr, and it's very interesting. And I would recommend anybody who liked his run on Thor. Most of the Thor movies are based off of his work anyway, but just not done very well.
Was he one of the writers in the Thor Ultimate?
No.
Because isn't that what the Thor is based off of? Mostly the Ultimates.
Visually, one of his looks is very reminiscent of the Ultimates. But Walt Simonson took over Thor in the early '80s and did, I think, 3 years worth of issues, and those issues are probably the best material ever made. He really understood that the character was 50% Superman and 50% Conan the Barbarian. Mm-hmm. And so in one storyline lasting a couple of issues, he's fighting frost giants in Niflheim or whatever, and then he's fighting giant robots in New York in the next one, and it all fits, it all works, and the many of the beats in the Thor movies came from his run specifically. In Thor 2, I mean, the whole thing with Curse wasn't done very well, but in the movie, but Curse was a big deal in Thor's run, in Simonson's run on the character, and a lot of that stuff just came from there, and so I recommend anybody read it. But his Ragnarok material, his creator-owned version of Thor, is really neat. Really interesting stuff. I think I have an image here.
I'll be honest, I haven't read it, so I don't know much about it.
Yeah, not a problem. It's
now I did the closest to something like that I've done recently is when I think Thor Ragnarok came out. I watched this really bad Asylum level movie about Thor and Loki.
Yeah,
and it was. I thought it was going to be more of a parody of the Thor movie, and instead they took it in its own direction, which made me laugh even harder at the parts they didn't want me to laugh at.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but it was like, as I said, it was like Thor versus Loki or something like that. But it was, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean by an Asylum level movie.
Right. All right. Let me share this image here. This is the cover of one of the trade paperbacks. The Walt Simonson's Ragnarok series doesn't come out in floppies. It comes out in like 36 to 48 page volumes, I believe. And so, in order to avoid Marvel coming after him, this is what his version of Thor looks like. He's undead. He doesn't have a lower jaw. And his hammer looks more like the illustrations that you find in Viking artwork. And
looks kind of like a Solomon Grundy kind of thing.
Well, he's undead. I mean, he's got a death's head.
When I first saw it, I didn't realize the white was hair, and I thought that was a dome over his head.
Yeah, that's hair, and yet he's able to talk somehow without having a lower jaw, and you can see that the hammer is.
Looks like he has a lower jaw.
No, he doesn't. It's always in. There's no lower jaw there. So I mean but that's what you have to do.
Now I see it. Sorry,
yeah,
optical illusion there.
There's no
lower jaw and a dome over his head.
Yeah, I had to zoom in on it. But that's what you have to do in order to keep Marvel Disney legal away from you when you do something like that.
Hey guys.
In any way. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to take off and I'm going to shave. I finally got the housekeeping here to get my conditioner and shampoo so I can actually shave and shower. So I'm gonna take off.
All right,
All
good,
right.
because we can smell you from here.
Yeah, that's a big deal. They lie hoo. Yeah.
All right, later, man.
Later, guys.
See ya. See ya. You know, I talked about this with when I was doing the comic book Hyperactive with Cullen Talinsky years ago. I talked about wouldn't it be funny if we did a if we had a team of superheroes that all had corporate names, like, you know, the super speed guy is called Sprint, and you know, the goddess character is called Nike, and you know, all these, and but you know, and then see if all these companies come after us for using the names, because technically they can't use the name, but you know, like, let's say for example, Nike is named after the Greek goddess of victory, right? So if you had like a Wonder Woman like character named Nike, you could do that as long as the logo didn't look anything like any version of the Nike logo. And obviously, you know, yeah.
What is this you speak of? Nike? What is that? Some kind of engine talk? Oh,
Thanks for that.
please tell
Thanks
me
for
you
that.
guys didn't-
Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks
really
for that
funny.
Back to the Future reference. Yeah, that was great.
Oh, thank God. You were
Yeah.
scaring me for a minute there.
We got it. It just wasn't funny. That's fine. But anyway, the idea being that you could, you know, provided she also didn't wear tennis shoes, it'd be a good idea if she didn't wear tennis shoes, and you know, you could do that. You could have a character called Nike, and it could be totally derivative of anything else, but you couldn't. You know, I mean, Nike obviously is huge, you know, bigger than anything. Oh fuck.
So there I was. There I was growing up in Flagstaff.
Stream's over.
Myself,
Stream's over. It's all going to be veteran stories and stories about how much he drinks.
really?
You know, yeah.
Wait a minute. Excuse
that's what
me.
I'm
Am
known
I
for.
chopped liver here? I'm a veteran too. Thank you.
No, I was at the
Really?
Flagstaff. I was at the Flagstaff Mall, and I was in the shoe section because apparently I had to buy shoes at some point. I don't remember why, but a Navajo woman came up to the store clerk that I was working with, said, "Do you have Nike?"
Yeah, Nike.
Well, Nike is one of the actual pronunciations. It was changed to Nike because it was anglicized.
Right.
I don't mind the anglicized version.
Yeah.
I can
Bike.
see that. I can see
Yeah.
that. Nike. I mean, we put
B-I-K-E,
the hard
bike.
emphasis on the E for a reason. So
But I mean,
I can see how that. I can see that.
it was in the
Okay,
90s, right?
NB,
It was in the 90s,
hold
and
on,
everybody knew
hold
what
on.
Nike was.
And NB, I just want to ask you, how do you pronounce the last four letters of my screen name?
Mikey.
Your name?
Viley Mikey.
I pronounce your name as Mike.
Nike's been around for a long time.
How do you pronounce the last four letters of my screen name?
Yes,
Nike.
I understand what you're saying. I understand it normally would be a silent E. I'm saying I can understand
The
that.
Vilemike.
I'm not arguing it. Okay, we call it Nike. Why? Because that's the brand. But I can understand why Nike would be totally acceptable because it makes sense.
I'm just
They had
Because there's no real reason for that E to be hard.
They had to tell us that that's how it's pronounced in their advertising.
Yeah.
Because Americans would look at the word Nike and say Nike.
Nike, yeah.
You know, that's what we would do.
If they had put a Y there, we would have probably gotten Nike.
You know, it's like the Jaguar cars. I grew up saying Jaguar, and then all of a sudden in the 90s, the ads came Jaguar.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Everybody
like
said
Jaguar.
Jaguar. It's
You
like no,
gotta put that
Jaguar.
U in there.
you know,
Now,
or
is
in the
it just me, or does when anybody is like, okay, I know what a Jaguar is, a Jaguar, it's like, are you trying to just be a prick?
yeah. There's a YouTube channel called Trek Central. They got a British guy who does all the voiceover work, and every time he says the word lieutenant, he says lieutenant. I keep telling him there are no lieutenants in Starfleet. Lieutenants only exist in the British Navy. That's the only place where it's acceptable to pronounce that word in that way. And like you're just trying to be cheeky. And I throw that out there. It's like throwing a grenade into a room full of idiots, and they all jump on it before it explodes. It's awesome.
No, I'd rather throw the grenade back, honestly.
Well, Darren, how do you feel about Colonel Kira then?
Oh, Colonel.
Colonel Kira.
there.
Oh, that's how we pronounce it. That's fine.
No,
that's how that's how the Bajorans pronounced it.
I'm just making a joke because
Yeah, I
even
know.
then they still call her Colonel Kira. But
Right. I understand. It's a French thing. A lot of those ranks come from like lieutenant, for example, actually are French words. But no, you know, when we encountered a lieutenant in the British Navy, we called them lieutenant because we were told that is how they pronounced their version of our rank. And when they referred to our guys, they called them lieutenants. So I know that that's not how the British pronounce the word lieutenant. That's how that's something that's very specific to their organization. And Trek Central's just being cheeky. They want attention for using lieutenant. And so I give it to them, and they don't like it.
When I was doing training and we were with British Royal Marines, we were told, you know, one thing they taught us was the different rank structure. They taught us about warrant officer. Well, in the American military, a warrant officer gets a salute.
Right.
Well, somebody had to tell us later, and it was a British officer because nobody bothered to tell us, because we would see him going with his unit,
right,
and we would salute him, and he's like, no. It was like he's a sergeant major with a brevet of warrant officer. It's something the British have that, and he's looking at us like we're out of our minds. And we're like, to us, a warrant officer is someone we're supposed to salute.
Right. Yeah. There's nuance there.
I think it was both confusing for him for that, but also the fact that we all saluted him.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you don't salute me.
For those of you who don't know, a warrant officer he comes from the old navies and of ancient times, where you would temporarily augment a chief petty officer to have a commission. It was a temporary commission, and he had to carry the warrant in his pocket and present it every time he started acting. You know, he started demanding things, and so that's where the term warrant officer came from. They are commissioned officers, but their rank is beneath that of an ensign, but higher than a chief petty officer. And so, but they do get saluted, yeah.
Hey, everybody.
So there is a difference between a warrant officer, obviously, and somebody who is being given a brevet officer promotion. Like, for example, General Custer. He was actually, I believe, a colonel.
He was a colonel.
But he was breveted to brigadier general, I think, or major general. I don't fucking remember.
Right. Yeah, the Army has their own version of it. I can only really quote the Navy part, but yeah, it's.
Yeah, the Navy has.
I haven't told a single war story yet, and you guys are talking about military stuff.
The clock's
not my fault.
What's funny is the four of us that are actually talking probably already knew this. I mean, I wasn't in the military, but my dad was a chief petty or a master chief, so I kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, well, you have an audience though who's also not. But yeah, it's. I thought I was gonna make it brief, but can't really do that here, I guess.
Darren, I got a question for you. Do you read any of the Star Trek books?
I used to. The pocket books. I used to read those on occasion.
I picked up and finally I started reading the Star Trek Coda series. It's supposed to be the swan song for the pocket books universe.
Okay. Interesting.
And I really think you should pick them up because you would probably enjoy it. It's basically it's same thing Star Trek Picard was doing. It's giving it's a lot of member berries, but it's also in a very interesting storyline to try to understand. and they have no qualms about killing off major characters.
Oh yeah, yeah. The only pocketbooks I ever read were the ones written by Peter David, who was at the time also writing the Incredible Hulk comic book series over at Marvel. He did that for about 10 years. So, but I'll look into it. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to find out.
Yeah, I just finished the second book out of the 3. I picked up all 3 like a couple months ago, but it took me a while to get through book 2 because I misplaced it.
Yeah, the problem that pocketbooks had was they were, per their contract with Paramount, they were not to be considered, obviously, canonical. And so a lot of their best books would get invalidated by later episodes of TNG and some of the movies. So, for example, they wrote probably the best sequel to Best of Both Worlds. It was called Vendetta.
Yep.
Where after Best of Both Worlds, the Borg sent 3 cubes to go assimilate Earth, and Starfleet had to figure out how to destroy 3 cubes instead of just 1. And it involved a doomsday machine and a few other callbacks to episodes of TNG.
I heard about that.
And then Then they did the Star Trek Destiny series where they finally killed off the Borg, and they brought back so much. Like they brought back the Columbia from Enterprise as part of it. And it was a whole fleet of Borg ships, and of course they mentioned the whole Vendetta thing, which kind of it's funny in retrospect because the characters are talking about the book, but they never mention anything like that in the series.
Mm-hmm. And then since Peter David was the best-selling author of pocketbook Star Trek, they gave him his own sub-series within it called New Frontier, where he got to create his own crew with his own ship and his own characters and such. And one of the things that was interesting was he made the chief engineer of the Excalibur, the ship that was the subject of his books, Leffler, the Ashley Judd character that appeared in 2 episodes of TNG.
The chief engineer was Borgnine.
No, it was Leffler. And
no, she was not the
Ernest Borgnine.
No, not Ernest Borgnine. It was Robin
Borgnine
Leffler.
172, I believe.
Yeah, at least not in the first part. But the thing was, when Star Trek Nemesis was started filming, a lot of people don't know this, but Ashley Judd was actually there as Wesley Crusher's date at Riker and Troy's wedding. And and because of contract disputes and the amount of money that she wanted, they cut her from the film. And so it's interesting when you see the shot of them all sitting at the wedding reception table, you'll notice a very conspicuous space between Wesley and his mother. That was where Ashley Judd was sitting as Leffler, and they digitally inserted a tree in the background, and they got rid of her. And the joke was that because she wasn't married, she wasn't dating Wesley in the New Frontier books, they had to get rid of her. And Peter David's like, no, I don't have that kind of pull, because that was a. Yeah, and I don't know. Leffler might have been replaced with somebody else later on, because I think by the 3rd book they did the usual thing where the Excalibur was destroyed. It was an Ambassador class ship, and they got replaced with a Galaxy class ship, and that might be where the
that wasn't until I want to say books 9, 10, and 11, or 10, 11, and 12, because they did a whole trilogy about it. Yeah. And they actually tied it into one of the book series. I think it was called Double Helix, that spanned TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, the whole gamut.
Yeah.
But speaking of Peter David, I posted a link in the chat. He's actually suffering from a lot of medical problems right now, including kidney failure. And he has a GoFundMe going on right now. And if you can donate to him, I would, as a fan of his work, I would definitely appreciate it. I even tried to donate a couple of bucks because it was all I could spare.
I did. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's just kind of sad, though, that, someone of his prominence in my mind still needs help paying freaking medical bills.
Yeah. No, you know, I just refreshed my memory. Leffler actually played the operations officer on Excalibur. She wasn't the engineer.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
why I was saying.
I made an error there, but yeah.
See, this is where Darren, you say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong. You were right."
This is where I say, Vilemike, thank you for conditioning my mind, body, and soul. Please feel free to do so as you wish.
And Caddy's in the chat, so everyone say hi to the eldest vile child.
Hello, eldest vile child.
Now that I got 3 more kids, I gotta add that modifier that she's the eldest vile child, not just the vile child.
Yeah, Vile, do you remember how they? Because I know that they used a doomsday machine to destroy one Borg cube in that book. I think they used the warp bubble to destroy a different one. You remember that episode where Crusher was trapped inside a warp bubble and her universe was collapsing and getting smaller? People were disappearing on the Enterprise and stuff.
It's probably been 15 to 20 years since I've read that book.
Because I think that's how they defeated the second one.
I have it on hardcover in my personal collection, but no, I haven't read it.
Yeah, I remember they put the warp bubble, and the Borg couldn't figure out how to get out of the warp bubble before most of their ship was deleted by the collapsing bubble. I think that's how they did that one. And then the third one was where you had like 6 ships all simultaneously firing their navigational deflector, that big beam from Best of Both Worlds that they tried, that weapon they tried to use that didn't work. But each ship had a different frequency, so the Borg couldn't adapt to all those frequencies at the same time, and they just blew up the third one. I think that's how they did that. My memory is very, very Swiss cheese.
Aaron, I have a question here.
What?
The LDGQ plus period.
LDG WTF?
Oh no, on Twitter. Okay, every time I get a better score on Wordle or Birdle than LDG, he goes, "Yeah, but I played mine on hard mode." And I'm like, there is no hard mode. You just go to the site and you play. It's their daily game. But it's his running joke. And so I put, in quotations on my post on Twitter today, hard mode, and Grandpa
And I
Geek's
put there's an easy mode.
Is there an easy mode? And I'm like, only according to LDGQ plus.
We're talking about actual LDG though.
Yeah, we're talking about LDG. Yeah. It took me a second to figure out that was the acronym he was going for. Mind you, I've been up since 3 a.m. But I just saw that in... No, it's from a response. Darren did... He goes hard mode, and I'm like, there's an easy mode? Because Darren got it in 1, 2... Damn, you got it in 3, buddy?
Yeah, but...
I'll be honest, I have not done a single one of those things. I'm not into it. I don't care. But if you guys are having fun with it, by all means...
There's a lot of it has to do with the start word that you start with. I mean, it's a lot of that's just luck.
Oh, I know. Oh,
where your brain's at. It's not an IQ test or anything. It's just
but I mean, you're just coming up with a 5-letter word, put it in there, and you're hoping you get some letters to where you figure it out.
As a dyslexic, I take offense at all of those word games.
Yeah,
as an adult, I don't give a fuck.
I read an article. That said that since Wordle and games like it have come into being on the internet, there's been a sharp uptick in Google searches under the search words 5-letter word containing.
I could believe that, but I cannot do. I would rather do the 5 guesses and win or lose by that without going. Now, I will pull up Notepad and I will try and, it's like, okay, these are the letters that are out. This is what I got. I'm looking at the vowels. I'm like, okay, what vowels are left?
Right.
Because you're really,
I've often wondered and it's interesting because Bird's here, but he's not here. He's away right now.
Yeah.
LDG, gets upset when Bird has a slightly better score than him, especially on Birdle. So he came up with this graphic. It looks like a Cheetos bag, but it says cheat, CHEATOS, and it's got a picture of Bird of Prey 5 on it instead of the Cheeto, And he goes, hey, Cheetos, and yeah, I don't know. I think that LDG likes to also say that you got to do it in under like 2 minutes or something. Otherwise, it's not hard.
Oh yeah,
Is that what the Cheetos is about?
I have
Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
The Cheeto Prey.
Yeah.
Cheeto Prey.
But
Bird chastised me one time because I did both. I shared both my Wordle and my Birdle. He's like, you can't be supporting the New York Times.
Oh.
If I said that was a joke.
Well, there's no advertisements on Wordle.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, there's no ads on it. I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, yeah, you can give them a hit, but it's not like we're seeing if they really want people, not to play Wordle, you could put a Bud Light ad on it.
LGBT.
I'm sorry your father hates your community.
IA plus.
That's as far as I know, Mr. CCDV as well.
I just say the rainbow people.
LGBTQIA plus. I don't know what the IA stands for though.
To be honest,
Bullshit.
I don't know what it means either. It might mean androgynous. It might mean asexual.
Alien.
I know the A stands for Armenians.
Armenians.
We know that.
Hey, didn't we see some Armenians having an issue with the alphabet?
Oh, yeah.
Recently?
Yeah, I mean, this is what's kind of interesting to me is, of course, they're used to Christians who generally don't fight back or get violent. That can't be said of that can't be said
Are you kidding
of
me?
other of.
Why was I in
Generally-
Bosnia? Why was I in Bosnia?
I'm not
in the
talking
late
about
90s?
Bosnia. I'm talking about the United States.
Well,
The United States.
Darren,
Listen.
Hold on,
Listen.
Darren,
I didn't get to complete my thought.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, they thought the Christians were a problem. Wait till they start trying to push around, people of other faiths that are more orthodox than American Christians are. That's what I'm
God,
saying.
yeah, let's push. I saw this video. I saw this video recently of these kids who are of the Muslim faith, and they're being told, if you have a problem with us doing this, we recognize your Ramadan. If you have a problem with this, you don't belong in Canada. I shit you not. I heard it.
Yeah. So I mean, you have one group that when you blaspheme, they'll say, we wish you wouldn't do that, and maybe we'll pray for you, that kind of thing. And then you have this other group that says, we're going to chop your head off. I mean,
well,
Charlie Hebdo, anybody?
Darren, the only reason I was laughing is because I quite literally got people the week before last, who said that they wanted to murder my 13-year-old daughter because she said she was gay.
Okay, those people are fucking idiots.
So, and this
that's not. How do you know they were Christian, or what makes you think they were Christian?
Because they quoted the Bible at me.
So what?
Okay, so what? How do you know they're Christian?
Okay, because that would be a no true Scotsman fallacy.
Well, that would be an example of false flag. In many cases,
there's an old saying.
Vile, a Christian wouldn't threaten to kill somebody because they're gay.
Why? The Bible explicitly tells you to kill gay people.
That's the description, that's the description, not the prescription. There's a difference.
Now you're talking, Mike. Sounds to me like you're talking about the issue from Leviticus. Are you talking about the rules that were on the Jews, or are you talking about because the Ten Commandments don't say that.
Yeah,
Well,
the Old
remember,
Testament
hold on, the 10,
is
hold on. What is the if you break one of the 10 commandments according to the Bible, what are you supposed to do with the person who breaks the commandment?
we're not under Mosaic law, so it wouldn't matter.
Exactly.
We're not
That's
under.
the thing.
Yeah, that's Mosaic law. That's the Old Testament. When Christians, follow Jesus, that comes in the New Testament. He had a very different set of criteria.
This is why This is why I get pissed off. I piss people off in the church because I say God changed His mind. He said, "Okay, I had one way of doing it. Now I'm doing it this way through my Son."
Well,
He didn't change his mind.
No, He had a plan. Take your pick, whatever.
Well,
what I'm saying is, most Christians don't give a damn about whether you're living in sin. We all are living. The ones who actually say you're living in sin are the biggest hypocrites because they live in sin too. Well, you think
remember,
I don't
if
sin?
you're going to argue that point, MB, you're correct only because didn't Jesus once say basically if you think about something you've committed, you've sinned already?
Yeah,
that's why you need it. That's why you need a savior. But no, NBE is correct in that we're not supposed to get all bent out of shape about the sins committed by non-believers.
Oh, sweetheart, I would argue that that's mostly true only in the U.S. because it's a Christian-dominated country. It's not necessarily true worldwide.
Okay, for a second I thought you called me sweetheart, but that was to your dog.
No. I refer to my daughter as sweetheart. I would not call you sweetheart, Aaron. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that.
I go back. I go back to that the adage about he who has no sin casts the first stone. I don't cast stones. Trust me.
He was he was talking to fellow Jews when he said that. We're not okay. This is something that a lot of Christians over the years. Okay.
As a conservative Christian, I should not be doing a lot of the things that I do. According to the Southern Baptist Convention, and yes, I'm a member of the Southern Baptist Convention, but honestly, live the way you want to live. That's what I say. That's my take on it. As a
do as thou wilt is not what we're supposed to live by as Christians, but that's all right. You'll work on that. But no, it's.
I'm not going to judge anybody.
But getting back to the point, getting back to the point I was trying to make is the American left has been used to thinking of Christians as the worst possible thing in the world. They're going to find out that we were actually a bulwark against far more, let's just say, orthodox religions that have prescribed reactions that are way different than what we have. Okay.
All right, gotta love my daughter.
All right, Caddy, you're killing me. You're killing me, Caddy.
Any experience you've had.
I don't care if it's Pride Month. I don't give a shit.
Pride's a sin. Pride's a sin. It's when in fact it's
Pride
one of the seven deadly sins.
But here's one thing I always say this: whenever anybody gives me shit about my views and being a Christian, and then they pull that card, what would Jesus do? Well, okay, I distinctly recall in Scripture, I did not come to bring peace to humans. I brought a sword.
He said, "Go and sin no more." When he confronted prostitutes and homosexuals,
the woman at the well.
Yeah, exactly. He told them to sin no more.
Who was living
but he also said, "Don't do what."
I want to do a joke. I want to do a joke. Remember what he did to the fig tree. If you don't do as Jesus wants, he will kill you.
None of us are fig trees. It's okay.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah.
No, it's a parable.
I know I'm making a joke.
And that's not a parable. That's actually an account in the gospel that he cursed the fig tree because it didn't have fruit on it.
Fig tree. Yeah.
And a lot of people are trying to make that out into something more than perhaps what it was intended to be. But I'm not going to debate that. But no, no, getting back to what I was talking about, though, the if you think the Christian reaction was outrageous, they're going to find there's other Abrahamic religions out there that have way worse.
That was very delicate of you.
For
That was very delicate of you, saying Abrahamic religions. I know what you're talking about.
Let's see. Abraham was the father of. Abraham was declared by God to be the father of many nations.
Right.
Well, we have 3 very distinct religions based on him and his children.
I suspect.
How is that not being the father of many nations?
I suspect Darren was talking about the Ishmaelites.
I know who he was talking about. But what I'm saying is, remember, he was a father. Remember, God said in his covenant, I will make you the father of many generations. I'll make you the father of many nations.
Can we just switch topics and agree that no matter what religion or lack therereof you have, there's assholes of every breed?
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, that's be safe.
Mike,
on a related topic.
Hold on.
Okay.
Caddy, I don't think they're trying to be disrespectful. Don't exaggerate a little bit. Don't make me defend them. That's what I'm saying.
Did we upset your wife?
No, that's Caddy.
We are trying very hard. We are trying very hard not to be offensive.
Right.
Yeah, we actually are. Sorry.
There's another story in pop culture right now that I find historically interesting that I'll be looking at how it goes. The character of Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan in Marvel Comics. This character has been a failure financially forever. I mean, and they've tried to push her into the movies and TV. We'll see how the movie goes, but her streaming show wasn't a very big hit either. So they've decided, and this is something that a lot of times Marvel does with their superheroes in order to give them a boost. They kill them off.
Yeah, I saw that.
And later they bring them back. Well, they're going to run into a serious problem here because Kamala Khan was designed to represent the American Muslim faith, and they are going to have a very different reaction if they kill off Miss Marvel, which they've done, and they try to resurrect her through any means, because that community will, if they notice, will react very differently. Christians don't care if superheroes get deleted and then resurrected. I mean, that's fine with us. I mean, Lazarus was resurrected. We don't have a problem with that at all. But especially given Islam's stance on the roles of men and women in their religion, in that regard as well, it's going to be very interesting to see how that, because they're kind of in a pickle now. They're starting to realize, maybe we can't do to this character what we would normally do with a superhero that isn't selling very well. So I'm just waiting to see what happens if they put out headlines that Ms. Marvel, first Islamic superhero in Marvel Comics, which she's not, but anyway, gets resurrected. That might. What's that?
Didn't one of the Green Lanterns beat them to the punch?
Green Lantern's a different publisher.
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, Green Lantern's a different publisher.
Not Marvel, but superhero.
Yeah, Kyle Rayner.
Kyle Rayner's not a Muslim.
Islamic faith, yeah.
Kyle Rayner's not a Muslim.
Yeah, it was one of the Green Lanterns that was Muslim. I can't remember their name though.
No,
well, right. You can have
Rayner's multiracial, not Muslim. I was wrong.
But no, actually, Kyle Rayner was not multiracial. He's only been retconned recently into being multiracial. That's okay. That's neither here nor there. But no.
That's a new thing? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's not.
I didn't even know they'd done that.
They even changed the spelling of his last name to accommodate it.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to understand, man, as much as geeks we are, we're not really keeping up with this shit.
No, anything that came out since the year 2000 or so, I've had to like look up because I wasn't part of it. Yeah,
I'm not geeking up with anything. I mean, I wish
Yeah,
I could say
I left DC in 2011 and never went back.
Oh yeah, DC.
I'll be honest with you. With a lot of the modern stuff, if it wasn't for people on YouTube doing compilations where they basically explain what happened over the course of a year-long story arc, I wouldn't have a clue what's going on because there's no way I can keep up with all the comics.
The other big comic book story this week is that Marvel has officially basically ended the Punisher because they don't like the fact that the Punisher's primary fan base would seem to be conservative people. So what they've done, they've been doing this in stages. The first thing they did was they changed the symbol on his chest to this sort of skull demon thing because they knew that the right wouldn't adopt that as their symbol. Because apparently because somebody saw somebody wear a Punisher T-shirt at the January 6th thing, Marvel thinks that they had to change the Punisher's symbol. Then they took away the Punisher's guns and had him use swords. Yeah, then they took away the Punisher's guns and had him use swords, right? And then they prior to this, they actually changed his origin where he's no longer a Marine Vietnam vet. He's something else. Well, now they've said, okay, they published the last Punisher story that this regime at Marvel is ever going to do. And they brought his wife back from the dead. And she tells him that, that day in the park when, because that's part of Punisher's origin is he came back from Vietnam and on his first weekend, he took his family to Central Park to have a wonderful picnic and two crime families were having a war and they got caught in the crossfire and his family got killed, right? His wife says, I was gonna tell you I wanted a divorce that day. And so they bring back his wife, have her divorce him, and so they basically uproot his entire origin so that his entire war on crime was meaningless all this time. And it's a fascinating.
Have you read Jim Butcher's Wizard series?
No. Anyway,
you're
this
talking
is
about
what.
Dresden.
Anyway,
You're talking about Harry.
Dresden,
you're talking about
the
Harry
Dresden Files.
Yeah. The left has hated the Punisher ever since the '80s when Marvel realized that this was a hit and they made him gave him his own comic. They're like, this guy, because all they see are a guy using guns and shooting people. And of course,
hold on. Yeah, I would say, compared to everybody else on the panel right now, I'm the furthest left here, and I've always liked the Punisher.
I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you, Mike. I'm talking about the capital L left.
I thought for sure I was the furthest right on the panel, but apparently I'm not, Darren.
Yeah, and we're talking every.
I thought I was the furthest right on this panel.
There's only a certain number of writers in over at Marvel that would even volunteer to write the Punisher because most of them are lefties. And every time they get a hold of the Punisher, they have to change him into something else. I mean, this isn't the first time that the Punisher has been destroyed. He got killed at the end of one guy's run, and then they brought him back as a undead
angel,
angel of death kind of thing, and it was all metaphysical. He didn't have guns anymore. He had angel guns and shit. It was just really stupid.
Yeah.
And then they brought him back to regular life again. Yeah. They said, okay, forget about that last run. And then they kill him off again, and then he becomes Frankencastle, where he literally has bolts in his neck and green skin like Frankenstein's monster. And they tried to make a funny book out of it.
Don't forget the time they tried to turn him black.
I don't remember that, but anyway.
Oh.
I do.
But
I do.
Anyway.
I do. Oh, I remember that.
I like the way you just dismissed things.
But that's what always happens.
I don't remember that, so it didn't happen.
This is what always happens when the left gets a hold of a perceived conservative character. They have to change it fundamentally, otherwise they can't write it because they can't They can't tell those stories, and I understand that. Sometimes the story is in you, sometimes it's not in you. But now Marvel's just flat out, okay, we're retiring this character forever because we don't like the fans of this character. And of course, Mike Baron, who cut his teeth on the Punisher back in the 80s, he's been lighting his Twitter on fire with all the articles about this because he's, he considers that part of his legacy.
I remember this Punisher episode or graphic novel I read, and I remember him using books as a bulletproof vest, and I remember him trying to talk to this kid, trying to get this kid out of a situation, and the kid ends up getting in the situation, and his best friend is killed, and he wants revenge. And I remember Frank being like, "You stupid fucking idiot. The reason he's dead is because of you and your decisions."
Yeah. And one of the key ingredients of a Punisher story is that he can never make a mistake. He can never shoot the wrong guy. And when a lefty gets a hold of the Punisher, that's what always happens. And it's just one of those things. There's certain people who are not as qualified to write a character authentically as others, and Marvel just ran out of writers that could authentically write the Punisher anyway.
It's a pretty common trope.
Punisher's not supposed to be a hero. That's the whole point of his character. Is he's supposed to be?
He's the protagonist. No, he's not. He's not a villain. He's heroic. But the thing is, he's what he is a pure combination of Conan the Barbarian, a little bit of Batman, and a little bit of Dirty Harry. And that's
he's what we call in America a vigilante.
The character only works. The character only works if he targets the baddest of the bad, who society has failed to punish. That's his whole thing. And
exactly,
of course,
that's why he managed.
And you get a lefty who doesn't believe in the existence of, in the right to bear arms and things like that, and they see a totally different thing than what the character is presented as.
It's a pretty common trope, though, in modern media.
I disagree with Darren because every time I've ever read Punisher from his first appearance in Spider-Man, he's always been that he might be doing he's doing the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Okay,
which makes him a villain protagonist in my mind.
The character was originally created as an antagonist. You're right. When he appeared in Spider-Man, he was an antagonist. And then later, when they saw how popular the character was and they brought him back for his own series, they established retroactively that he was under the effect of a mind-altering chemical from Jigsaw or somebody during those Spider-Man adventures. And that's how they got around it. The character as presented in the 80s, because the Punisher fit the 80s like a 44 Magnum in a
Spider-Man 181.
Yeah, and that was in the 70s, right? So one of the things they also did is they incorporated a little bit of Rambo into him as well, because Rambo was really popular in the early 80s as well. And it's a fundamental problem for a anti-gun writer who considers himself more of an activist than a storyteller. And that's one of the problems with it. The Punisher over time became incompatible with what Marvel became. And that's why he's gone.
All right, I have this thing. Why do we praise movies with excellent sword fighting cinematography, but we decry gun violence?
I don't say we do.
Are you kidding me? No, John Wick is one of the best series one of the most popular series that's come out.
But in real life, what I'm talking about is in cinematography, you have a certain level where everything is acceptable. If you hear about somebody getting stabbed, okay, that's sad. You hear about somebody getting shot, it's we need to ban guns. What's the difference between somebody being killed by a knife versus being shot?
Well, if you're going to go that way, NB, I would go by the difference between accidental gunshots and accidental stabbings.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
There you
they
go.
took the Punisher's guns away from him.
Hold on. I will literally, hold on. I've been shot twice accidentally by family members. I've never been stabbed accidentally.
Sure, it was
by anyone.
accidental.
Well,
I've been
Just go ahead.
I've been stabbed. Well, I've never been shot, Mike, but I have been stabbed, and it wasn't accidental.
well, exactly. I'm saying that it's the accidental part that is important.
Yeah.
Ironically,
Yeah, but to
and
accidentally discharge a firearm
I find this ironic
a little
is that
difficult.
I work in a kitchen and I'm culinary school trained, and yes, most accidental stabbings happen in a kitchen.
I would understand
That's
that.
where the knives are. I mean, that makes sense.
Now, I carry.
No,
a
they
knife
took-
on-
Telling
hold on.
me,
I wanna do it-
CCTV,
I
you
will-
guys
no.
don't remember to put the knife the right way.
Well, we need to ban. We need
Well-
to ban restaurants. We need
I'm
to
gonna-
ban
no,
I'm
restaurants.
serious.
Hold on.
I have
I'm gonna
a
go off on-
fear.
hold
I
on.
have
I
a
want to tell a
deep
story. I want to tell a
fear.
story. I want to tell a story about. I carry a knife on me at all times because I use it as a tool for a lot of things during my day job, including opening boxes. At one of my stores, I had someone complain that I should be using a box cutter because it's specifically designed to open boxes as opposed to using a knife. And I said, yes, except where I'm opening a box with a knife, no one really looks at me strange because I'm still using it for its intended purpose. Now, if I was opening my box with a gun or a weed whacker, you might have.
Yeah, they took away the Punisher's
Yeah,
gun.
well,
They gave him swords, and it wasn't enough. They had to destroy the whole purpose of this. They had to destroy the Punisher's existence as a character, and that's what they did in this final story.
Yeah, I heard about that. And I was just like, oh.
I mean, they tried to change the character. They tried to alter the character into something that the left would appease the left. The left is not appeased by anything. They want your destruction. And that's what they eventually had to do.
Shit. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Anywho.
Yeah, well, I got stabbed. It was intentionally. It was my ex-wife, and let's just say I lied about it. She didn't get arrested, and I didn't tell my job what really happened.
Oh no, I've been
No, that was
stabbed too. My brother intentionally stabbed me in the back.
that was chivalrous of you, Grandpa Geek.
Quite literally stabbed you in the back.
No, it was not chivalrous. It was. Fuck, I don't even know what it was.
It's the embarrassment. It's the embarrassment of
Oh.
being on active duty and being hurt by your spouse. It's the
Boom!
embarrassment.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, also CCDV. What am I? I'm a male. So if I go to the ER and say I've been stabbed by a female, you think they're going to think?
Also, that yes. Unfortunately, that is the culture. I was stabbed by a female. Oh, what were you doing to her?
Right. It opens up a can of
Exactly.
worms, and you leave yourself open to.
And on either side,
false
that's still
prosecution.
fucked up. You should be able to say exactly what happened, and both parties, the party that's responsible should be, held accountable.
Oh, really? You live in California and you expect me to believe that? Do you have any
I'm
idea how
telling
many
you.
times I was arrested in California just because my ex-wife said I did something?
NB, do you have any idea how many times I was arrested because Caddy's mom said something stupid
No.
and literally lied? Yes, trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Wait a minute. You're telling me California arrested you for a child's testimony?
No, Caddy's mom. Not Caddy herself, Caddy's mom. She's, like, for instance, she accused me of kidnapping Caddy on Father's Day because she was late to pick her up. And I was actually thrown in jail. Granted, the charges were dismissed afterwards because they realized it was ridiculous. But
Yeah, but you're just
He was
proving
not
my
held
point.
accountable
That's how
for it.
California is.
No, that's how everywhere is.
No.
No, not in Oklahoma.
No, I've been arrested in Illinois, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and California. Trust me. California is very different on that.
I'm telling you, if any person had said that you had kidnapped somebody, they're going to arrest you regardless of what state you're in. Then once the facts come out, they'll let you go. That's how the criminal system works.
Yes, I'm very well aware of that, but you're talking about kidnapping a child. I'm talking about I'm bleeding, or my ex-wife said he hit me. I said I didn't. I've got to get arrested, bailed out, and then I'm back home, and then my charges get dropped. Why? Because it was a waste of fucking time.
Exactly. That's what happened to me as well.
Well, you should have had your proof with you.
Shut
You
up.
wonder why I'm never getting. You wonder why I'm never coming back to California.
Idiot.
I mean, it's got to have been something you could have done to have evidence.
Look. Anything you say can be used against you. It doesn't say anything you say can help you, does it?
Before you get arrested, you nimnut.
Hold on. I'll give you an example of something that happened to my Uncle Tommy. He was stupid, and he actually had his entire gun collection stolen from his mobile home. Now, about 2 or 3 years later, he's arrested because one of his guns was used in a crime where 2 people were killed. Now, once he explained the situation...
Wait, whoa.
Hold on.
Did he report the gun stolen?
He reported that his guns were stolen. He did not report every single gun that he had that was stolen because some of them were unregistered.
Okay.
Now, because he didn't register those guns, they arrested him. Once he said, no, that was part of the guns that were actually arrested, that were stolen at the time.
If they weren't registered to him, how would they know they were his guns?
Let's just say he's not the smartest person, and he still put his frickin' information on the guns.
So sharp as a bowling ball, then, is your friend.
No, this is my Uncle Tommy, and yes, he's not very smart. This is I've told this story before. He's the person who had $30,000 worth of guns stolen from his $10,000 worth mobile home, and the first thing he did was go out and buy another gun because he was worried about if they came back.
Sounds like an idiot.
That's the irony of this whole debate.
Now, hold on.
I'm an expert marksman.
They let him go once he said, "Oh no, this was part of the guns that were stolen. I'm sorry, I didn't, mention this when at the time they were stolen." They dropped the charges because obviously he didn't commit the crime, but he was still arrested in Texas for a crime he didn't commit, and they just let him go and drop the charges.
Well,
what I was saying is this whole debate about guns, right? I don't even own a gun, but I will defend your right to have a gun or many guns if you want many guns. I don't even own a gun, but I will defend your right to have as many guns as you want. It just seems like it's a repeating cycle of stupid is what it is.
Well, I'm unlike you, Mr. CCDB. I actually do own guns, but I think that they should be regulated just as well as we regulate vehicles.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah,
things are right. Okay, Mike, that's where we're going to disagree. One is enshrined in the Constitution. One isn't.
Okay, if I hear you say you own all these guns, when we know matter of factly that they don't work, that you don't effectively own guns, they're not even in your residence. So I'm just every time you say that, it's so disingenuous.
Hey,
when I had somebody break into my house, they stole a safe from my house. It was a small safe, one of those small ones. It had 2 9mm in it. When I reported it to the cops, I told them what was in it. I had a detailed inventory of what was in that safe. And I said I had 2 9mm. They're like, or not 9mm, sorry, 2 22 long rifles. They asked me, do you know what the make and model was? I said, I have the make, model, serial number right here. 7 years later, I got a call from that same town saying, hey, your gun was found by the FBI in a crime. Do you want it back? I'm like, I am 1,200 miles away. Just destroy the damn thing.
Well,
but I had enough sense to have that stuff written down.
And I would say that's probably smart. What I'm getting at is when it came to Darren's comment about it being in the Constitution, yeah, when we say stuff like that, Darren,
I didn't say anything about the Constitution. What are you talking about?
what was it?
I got after you for calling yourself a gun owner when none of your guns work and they're not kept on your residence.
He's got
Well,
a
I still
point
got my
there,
shotgun.
Mike.
Why does that not count?
I'd say a shotgun counts more than a handgun.
What kind of wait a minute, Mike, what kind of rounds are in your, what kind of rounds do you have for your shotgun?
I have for defensive purposes, I use rock salt.
Excellent choice.
Oh,
Excellent
Jesus
choice.
Christ.
No, I mean,
I've been shot in
honestly,
the ass with rock salt. I know it hurts like a son of a bitch.
you have two choices with a gun. You shoot to warn or you shoot to kill. And if
No,
you don't
you
want to
don't
kill
have
somebody,
that
then you
choice.
shoot to warn, and rock salt is a very good choice.
CCDV. There's only one weapon that shoots rock salt.
And the shotgun is the only one he's got on his property. I don't blame him one bit.
Yeah, but Darren gives me shit because of all the guns I have in Texas that are made inoperable because, you know, they're in fucking Texas.
Yes, I
and they're not
know. I
around me.
remember. Yeah, I remember.
You've got replicas.
If someone breaks into my storage unit, I don't want all those weapons to be used if I can prevent it.
Well, then you can't say they're guns. If they can't work, if you can't make them
they don't work, what is the point?
Then they're not guns, are they? They don't
Because
shoot
they're in
anything.
storage, and some of them I legally can't move across state lines without disassembling and mailing them or something because of federal laws.
Whoop-de-poop.
So
They're
I don't
still
want
not guns.
No, I did. Somehow I find that hard to believe federal laws. Unless you have an automatic weapon.
RICO predicates, maybe, but I mean, you know.
Yeah, I will say, NB, some of these weapons have been made, let's just say, they were grandfathered in. The only way I could have obtained them was to inherit them. You can't legally buy them in the States anymore.
Okay, so you have some automatic weapons bought prior to 1986.
Yes.
Okay. So
as of right now,
what is it in the state of California?
Because they're in a storage unit in Texas that I can't go to every day or check on or whatnot, in case they're stolen, they've either had parts of them welded so they are inoperable or they've had their firing pins removed.
Why didn't you just take pictures of them and the serial numbers?
I have those as well. But I want to make it harder if someone.
I want to say this. Now, I want to say this real quick, Mike. Welding them, the ones you welded, stupid. The ones you took the firing pin out of, very smart.
Well, it was because it wasn't able to have the firing pin removed without severe damage to the firearm. So they were just spot welded.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've only taken the fire pin out of certain caliber.
No idea why you have a Modus in storage in Texas.
Why do I have it in Texas?
You should not have a Modus in storage in Texas. You should not have a Modus, period.
What's a Modus?
M2 Browning machine gun, 50 caliber. I know exactly what he's talking about. Spot welding the.
Let's just say my dad collected a lot of guns.
Well, CCDV, you got to remember, you were in infantry. I was communications.
I was a quartermaster. I was a quartermaster my entire career.
Oh, and all the guns you fired were just, you know.
Well, I chased Abrams and I chased Bradleys for my first 5 years in the Army, so I did qualify
Now,
EIB, but
I would qualify for the fact that let's say I had some of these weapons with me in California and I had it ready access to. They would probably not be in the condition they are right now because I could maintain them and I could make sure that they weren't accidentally stolen, as best as I can. While in a storage unit in Texas, I have very little control if someone decides to go and rob that entire storage complex. I'm 2,000 miles away.
I
And,
totally
I
understand.
think it's interesting, CCDV, that you say you did that for your whole career. We are about to have a Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Carlos Ruiz, who started as a warehouse clerk.
Okay.
So
That's
he's
what I'm
going
talking
from
about.
he's going to go from a warehouse clerk to the highest enlisted rank in the Marine Corps.
Marine Corps is going to change just a little bit, I suspect.
Maybe they would. Well, maybe a little efficiency on inventory. Come on, those warehouse clerks were all about inventory, man. It was all about the numbers.
It's funny. It's funny when I hear the word quartermaster. Of course, you guys being from having Army backgrounds, you think of something very different than I do. In the Navy, when I was in, a quartermaster was a navigation specialist. He worked with the charts and plotted the course for the ship. And the reason why they were called, the reason why they were called quartermasters was because they were in charge of the locker where all the charts were kept. So that's where the Navy sort of took a title from the Army and sort of evolved into something different. Now, when I was in the last year, they basically renamed the rate from quartermaster to navigation electronics technician, or NAV-ET, because that's what they were.
I always thought the origin of quartermaster was the guy who, assigned people to bunks.
Yeah, exactly. The quartermaster was basically, for us, the quartermaster was basically the guy who said, "This is the equipment. This is where you're going to be."
Yeah, this is your tent, and this is the spot where you're going to put your tent.
Yeah, exactly. This is what you get. Shut the fuck up and fuck off.
Yeah, in the Navy we have storekeepers. That's the rate that roughly corresponds to an Army quartermaster, and they're in charge of stores. All the equipment.
I never even heard that term.
Yeah, well, Marines, they have from what I understand, they have the Navy verbiage, but then their ranks are all Army, so they're kind of like a hybrid between the two. In that
That's
regard.
right.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah,
in the Marine Corps,
you have private PFC, but then you have Lance Corporal, and then things gonna change.
When it gets into the senior, the senior NCO ranks is where it differs, right? Because you call yourselves gunnies, right? But
right.
No.
But then you have overhead hatches, bulkheads, things like that. Those are also part of the Marine Corps lingo.
We call it a toilet. We don't call it a head. We call it a toilet.
Yeah.
No, you fucking call it a latrine, you little shit. We call it the head. We call it a porthole. We call it stairwell. We call it.
I'm an E7 too. I'm an E7 too. You can't.
Which of you
call
was
me
in
a
the
little
Marines?
shithead.
Which of you?
I was in the Marines, and I was not an E7. I was an E6. I was a.
Well, hold on. I thought the
retired
Marines.
E6.
Hold on, NB. I thought the Marines called it a potty.
No, Mike. You would literally have people go up to. You would have recruits go up to the drill instructor. Recruit Reed request to speak to drill instructor Staff Sergeant Diaz.
And B,
What you want?
why is your
request-
speech so slurred?
He's been taking the A part of the CNA stream a little hard, I think.
Okay. Oh,
But,
now I remember. You said
funny.
you hadn't gotten to sleep.
I was gonna say that's usually my job.
No, but it was so funny. You would be like, this recruiter needs to speak to drill instructor so and so. What do you want? This recruit requests to make a head call. So call it. Head. Well, I guess it's not coming. I guess you better get your ass there. And they did that to us every fucking time we had to take a piss.
Okay. Well, to change the subject entirely, because I finally finished season 3 of Mandalorian. I watched the first season of The Ark. Has anyone watched that?
Nope.
What was the arc about?
The
I think
arc?
I did.
It's basically when I watched it, I got a lot of Star Trek universe vibes. It's basically a spaceship sent out to because Earth is dying type scenario. They got lots of people trying to build a colony on another planet, but all the command crew is basically wiped out, and it's the lower decks type people that have to step up and take command of the ship.
Is that the one with Katie Stackhoff in it?
No.
So it's a generation. It's a generation ship.
Kind of,
Because
except they have
faster than light.
a form of FTL.
They do have faster than light.
Oh no, I've heard about the show, but no, I have not.
I don't know.
It's on Sci-Fi Channel or Peacock right now.
Is it good?
The character stuff is really well done. Some of the science, very not so.
Well.
Like
I
at
will
one point-
suspend. I will suspend disbelief for a good story. I will.
Well, what I mean is, like, at one point they're talking about the ship is about to be hit by an asteroid, and then they don't realize it's an asteroid until they finally get it in view, and they find out it's a comet.
Oh my God!
And they can
Really?
only tell- they
They
can only
can
tell that
actually
because-
see it.
And they can't.
they're
Yeah, they
a-
can only tell because it had a tail.
They can see it, and they're able to avoid it. Bullshit. On
Well,
science
at the-
level.
At that point, they had no engines, which is why they had to say that. But
no, actually, I Mike, I looked that up real quick. I've heard of it, but no, I have not seen it. Is it any good?
I actually enjoyed it. I'm glad it got renewed for a second season. But as I said, if you don't mind the breaks from reality when it comes to the science, the drama is actually really well done. And I'm kind of enjoying it.
Well, that's good.
And you say it's
It's
the
on
Ark?
Peacock.
As far as I know, it's on Sci-Fi and Peacock. I think the whole first season was only like 10 episodes, so.
Series premiered on Sci-Fi February 1st, 2023. Episode stream on Peacock.
Okay, I found this on the web. For
What the
premiere
fuck?
on Sapphire.
Alexa, post my internet history on Twitter.
I don't have Alexa. That
You gotta
was
be quick.
Siri.
Siri,
And I'm still
post my
trying to
internet
figure
history on Twitter.
Jarvis, post my internet history on Twitter.
Friday, post my history on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, like you guys want to see my history.
Voice
Or to
of
go back
Majel
to
Barrett
Karen.
Roddenberry. Post my what? I will tell you though that if they ever come up with a custom voice interface where you can pick your voice, I'd definitely probably shoot for Majel Barrett Roddenberry. they were.
What with the chalice of the sacred reeks or something like that?
No,
No,
just
Star Trek, The Next Generation,
Star Trek.
and Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I mean, she was the voice of the Enterprise, the Defiant, and all these other, all the ships of the Berman era, basically. And she's had so many voice lines recorded that they could make an AI, that's better than Salty's AI of Bird of Prey.
She was Counselor Troy's mother, right?
Yes, but that was a different character.
Yeah. But
she was
right.
All of her lines that she recorded as the voice of the computer were done in isolation, and they're stored somewhere. And all they have to do is feed that into an AI system, and you'll be able to replicate her voice saying anything. I mean, technically, in my opinion, she should be the voice of computers on Star Trek for the rest of the franchise. But
actually, that is one thing I really enjoyed about Star Trek Picard season 3. And Riker said, "I miss that voice."
Well, when they first,
Mitchell Barrett.
When they first activate the computer, and the computer, Picard says it to it and addresses him as Captain Picard, I thought that was so special and
obviously she has passed away, so that was fun. I had heard that episode, that actual line, I believe, was from the episode where Jericho hands the command codes back to Captain Picard.
Jellicoe, yeah.
But
the thing that gets me about that scene was I in my mind I always thought of the Enterprise D's bridge, most versions of it, as being like the most not high tech looking, but the most like one of the most functional bridges out there, right? And when they step onto it after seeing all these other bridges like of the Titan A and stuff, I'm like, oh, that looks so like retro dated 80s now. It's got like the yellowing Macintosh plastic on the helm and the wood and all that kind of stuff. The carpeting.
Yeah, but I love what Picard says. You know what? Standing with all of you, you know what I missed most? The carpet. I was like, oh!
Yeah.
Listen, you can call them member berries, you can call them Easter eggs. I hate Discovery. I don't care for Lower Decks. I didn't like the first 2 seasons of Picard, but I am not going to sit here and say this was not what I wanted.
Yeah.
And
see, everything's yellow.
And deny that.
I want to make a confession that you guys might find kind of funny.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, and the first, Star Trek Next Generation was the first Star Trek show I watched, and I'm talking about I started watching it when I was like 5 years old. Okay. Now,
no, you didn't.
The funniest. Sorry.
Wait a minute.
That's not the original bridge, by the way. That image.
I know this is a CG replicated.
Wait a minute, Mike. How old
are
you? Found
first. I'm 38.
There is no way you watched this when it aired.
I didn't say when it aired.
Okay.
I said it was the first Star Trek show I watched, and I was about 5 years old when I started watching it.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I actually watched this when it first aired.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was watching it on syndication, and I can't remember the channel, but every weekday
everybody watched it on syndication.
Oh, yes, we did.
It was a
now,
syndication show.
Let him tell the story.
Because I knew nothing about naval terminology or anything like that, I thought the reason they called it the bridge was because of the area where Worf stands that looked like a bridge.
The railing. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's
why I thought it was called the bridge.
Geez, I never even thought of that. That's fantastic. I love it. I love it.
But even looking at this, looking at this, shit. All right.
Go ahead, Darren.
Go ahead, Darren.
Even looking at this image, all the yellow on the bridge reminds me of, you remember what Macintosh used to be like, where you'd buy an Apple computer, it'd be white, but within a year it would turn into that yellow color? Because the type of plastic they made would break down. That's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of like an old Macintosh from the 80s.
Well, to
Well, you know, Vilemike.
Technically, it didn't break down, Darren. It just absorbs bromine from the atmosphere very readily, and the bromine turns the color yellow.
Yeah, I can relate with you
So
on this
weird.
because I used to think it was called a cockpit because pilots were naked.
Thank you for conditioning my mind, body, and soul, Mike. Mike, please feel free to do so as you wish.
No,
Damn it, NB,
well, the
your
reason
speech impediment's conductive.
One of the things I do is when I come across like an old Nintendo that's been yellowed, you can actually remove the bromine from the plastic and it turns it bright and shiny again.
Well, that's neat. That's a good trick.
So it's
Yeah, Violet,
one of the reasons
I can relate
why
to
I
your
was saying
comment.
Mike, is I knew Mike is younger than me, is when I first saw Encounter at Farpoint, I remember this hype. I was living in West Virginia, and there was this hype that Star Trek was coming back. And we are, as a family, my dad's there, my grandparents are there, I'm there, and I'm watching my first Star Trek, and it's Encounter at Farpoint. My grandmother hated Picard that I was so in love with it that I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. My grandmother goes, come here. She takes me down to the basement. She opens up one of her VHS cases, and there's all 79 episodes of TOS Star Trek. And she goes, let me show you a real Captain of the Enterprise. And she grabs where no man has gone before and says, watch this. So from then on out, I was watching the VHS tapes and every week watching Star Trek because we still watched it together. Even though my grandmother didn't like, and you know what really threw me for a loop when I first saw the Star Trek TNG? I was like, honestly, it was Geordie LaForge, LeVar Burton, because it said, I was like, oh my God, it's the guy from Reading Rainbow.
Rainbow, yeah.
Yeah. Or Roots.
Dude, I was freaking out because I was like, I recognized him.
Let me set this up. This won't hit your channel, by the way. This is the original trailer when I first got Star Trek 4 on VHS. This is the first time I'd ever even heard of TNG. This was the trailer right before it played the movie for Star Trek 4. This trailer was on the VHS.
Star Trek. The next generation is beaming aboard the airplanes. All the wonder, the excitement, the drama of Gene Roddenberry's original Space Odyssey. Welcome to the Enterprise. With all new adventures from the 24th century. With an all-new Enterprise.
This is nothing like any vessel I've seen before.
And an all-new crew. Starfleet veteran Captain Picard, Commander Riker, Executive Officer, Chief Medical Officer Crusher, and her brilliant son, Wesley, Lieutenant Commander Data, an android, the telepathic Troy, Security Officer Yar, Geordi, a man with unique vision, and Klingon Officer Worf.
Shields and deflectors up, sir. Go to yellow alert.
Their continuing mission to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Let's see what's out there.
Don't miss the all-new television adventures of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that in
Yeah.
forever.
Decades.
Yeah, I love all.
I remember that.
I don't think I've actually seen that ever.
Yeah,
That's
was
a first.
that was on
I've
VHS.
seen that. I remember that.
The voice of that on that that narrated that trailer was an actor who was on the original series. He also did the voiceover for the original Jaws trailer. You know, it is as though God created the devil and gave him jaws. You know, that guy. But no, that was how it was introduced. And I'm like, they have a Klingon officer. That's an interesting position.
Yeah, that actually, you know what? You know, my dad could not figure out why Data was my favorite character at the time. Because I just thought, you know, an android. And you know, Star Trek is the reason I got into computers. That's why I became a computer guy. That's why I became IT, was because of Star Trek.
Well, very similar to me, NB, because there wasn't a lot of people at my school who actually liked Star Trek all that much. So every other weekend is when I went to go see my dad, and my dad had a computer and the internet, and we're talking about 80s, late 80s.
Yeah, that's unusual.
So I would go
A little
online.
Commodore, kind of a Commodore 64.
14.4 K-baud.
LOA-2,1.
Well, we're talking, as I said, we're talking like late 80s, early 90s internet, and I would go online and talk about all the episodes I watched, during the week and with all the other people, and that's what got me into computers.
I have to admit that I was one of those people when the show first came out. I was one of those people going, okay, Picard is supposed to be Kirk, right? So who is supposed to be who is supposed to be the Vulcan? I don't. This show is so confusing to me.
Yeah, the positions are all very different. Yeah, it's but
And
no,
see, it was different for me because, and it was different for me because,
I was going to say, Darren was trying to say something first.
No, it's okay. He's on a roll.
Sorry, Darren. Well, the way it started out is I started out with Picard, and then the next Enterprise I see is Kirk's Enterprise. And goddamn, I used to talk my grandmother's ear off. I'd be like, why does this show look different from this show? Well, that show was in the 60s. This show's now in 86. I'm like, why are things different? What's going on here? I'm like, why is Picard in a red shirt when he's the captain, but Kirk is in a gold shirt? I used to ask all those questions.
Yeah, that's an interesting story too, because the reason why is because they didn't feel that Picard looked good in the mustard-colored uniform, so they changed it to red, and that's where it came from. But I mean, even in real-world navies, you look at like a submarine from 100 years ago. The uniforms are going to be very different. The positions, the verbiage, a lot of that stuff changes, and so when you look at TOS and then you move to TNG era, one would expect a number of changes to have occurred in that time, and I thought that was very interesting stuff.
I think what confused a lot of people was, going from Wrath of Khan to the end of the classics. They were in that same crimson uniform.
Yeah, that was a long-lasting uniform. Because in yesterday's Enterprise, the Enterprise C from 22 years earlier was still in that uniform. So that uniform lasted at least 70 years. And
I think it's in my head canon, the reason that the Picard had, the command was now red was because of the maroon uniform from the movies and everything.
Well, the thing was, everybody had a maroon uniform. It's just the collar were different. Like command was white in those uniforms, and medical was green. It was a very different color scheme, but it all flowed together. I mean, nothing for me beats though the simplicity of the uniforms from the original series. There's something I keep going back to that.
I would agree.
I love.
That was, one of the turnoffs I had, and DS9 is my favorite series, but the way the uniforms evolved, I didn't care for it.
See, I think the gray DS9 wartime uniform is the best one they've ever had.
I do like that one. I do absolutely like that one as well. Yeah. It has seriousness to it.
Yeah, and I think
I like it well I like it because, well, I will say this. I like it because in the pale moonlight, when Cisco is, throughout the vlog, taking off his uniform, you start to see, more red. And I was like, okay, I get the visual style. But yeah, I understand muted colors. It just seemed like we were going muted when, you go back to TOS.
Is somebody serious?
Oh, sorry. Mr. CC, I thought you were choking up, and that's why I muted you, because that's what I heard.
I think my least favorite uniforms were the ones from TMP, obviously.
Oh
but
yeah.
I haven't liked any of the Secret Hideout uniforms with and the only reason I like the ones from Strange New Worlds is because they're reminiscent of the TOS uniforms. But yeah, it's
if I remember correctly, the original Command uniforms were supposed to be green.
Yeah, the TMP uniforms were that shitty 70s aesthetic that it was in everything back then, where everybody had beige pajamas on.
It wasn't
muted.
just it was muted.
Yeah. But I mean, you had them wearing like onesie leotard things, kind of like what Luke Skywalker wore in the first Star Wars film when he was on Tatooine, and you look at all science fiction from the 70s, they all had that look, whether it was Logan's Run, whether it was Silent Running, or Space 1999, they all had that beige onesie shit. I just did not like it.
I completely agree. Motion Picture had the worst uniforms. I think the ones that I think were the best after the Dominion War Deep Space Nine uniforms were the motion picture uniforms. I always had a soft spot for those ones as well.
Honestly,
I
Enterprise.
always went with
the
Enterprise
at the same time, one at a time. The Enterprise uniforms have been my favorite because
Enterprise
honestly,
has a go ahead.
It's a test ship, right? And everybody on the test ship is wearing the same coverall jumpsuit uniform, right? But with
they have a different color collar.
Different color collar. That is what I always think of as like that is what Earth would do.
Yeah, well, that was all taken from what submarine guys wear. That's very similar to our coveralls that we would wear on board. And then
not even just that. That, Darren. I would be on like a Navy ship when I was in the Marine Corps, and I would see people walking around in different colored shirts, and they'd be like, "What does that guy do?" And because we had to find out each colored shirt. There was a purple shirt, a yellow shirt, and they all had different functions, but everybody on the ship knew what those functions were. And I was kind of like, okay, I know I'm a guest on this ship, but I might want to know what each of these motherfuckers does. And if I'm going to say I love the classic TOS uniforms. I actually did enjoy the 09 update version. I thought it was relatively faithful in the uniform department.
From a distance, they were very close, but then as you got closer, it's obvious they were made out of different material. They had the tiny little Delta shields everywhere on the texture, reflective texture and stuff. I like the simplicity of the TOS version, but I mean the derivatives of that are okay too. Hey, I want to share something with you guys real quick, if that's okay. We were talking about the Navy earlier. My first impression of what a Navy, what it would be like to be in the Navy was based off of this. You'll get a kick out of this.
Oh God.
I thought when I was a very little kid that if you joined the Navy, you could you got your own parrot. You got your own like anchor-shaped magnetic grapple gun.
Man, sailor.
And of course, what I found out later was, of course, even though they gave Shipwreck plenty of screen time on the cartoon, he, in terms of his job, would have been the most pathetic Joe on the team. It was really weird. It was like because a bosun's mate is basically he's a deck seaman. He ties knots and keeps the deck clean and stuff. He's like a janitor. And of course, on G.I. Joe, Shipwreck was given all kinds of other things that he could do. And and it's funny. It's funny. When I was in the Navy,
man, I'm gonna tell you right now, do not knock a bosun's mate. They know how to tie a rig like a motherfucker.
Right.
I will be honest with you, Darren. I thought that every single person in the military got their own code name. Because of G.I. Joe, I remember asking my dad what his code name was, and he told me it's just Master Chief. And I'm like, oh, that sounds so cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was his freaking rank.
Yeah, they treated him like pilots, like
Shipwreck's
Maverick,
rank is
Goose,
Petty
and
Officer First
Shipwreck.
Class.
Yeah. But I mean, what was funny was when I was on Trepang, I actually had a copy of G.I. Joe, the movie, the animated film that went direct to video after Transformers didn't do so well. And Shipwreck is only seen in the opening credits. And when we played the opening credits and he's there for a blink and you'll miss it moment, everybody friggin' stood up in a cruise mess and cheered. There he is! I mean, everything about him is wrong.
You know what's funny is he's a Petty Officer First Class and he has red stripes.
He has red stripes, and that's actually a chief's. He's got it should just be 3 chevrons. It shouldn't have a dome over the, and that's supposed to be a bosun's mate symbol. It looks like 2 rifles crossed. So they got the rank insignia wrong.
So he's a Chief Master Sergeant, but he has red stripes.
Right.
So are you saying that G.I. Joe got it wrong?
To be gold if you're that high.
G.I. Joe got it wrong?
G.I. Joe got it wrong. Can you believe it?
And I thought
no, seriously, guys, for those of you who don't know, there is a difference between the red chevrons in the Navy and the gold chevrons.
Right. There is.
I knew it. There's proof right there. They were using AI to create these characters.
Since the Air Force
in the 80s,
Air Force is a child of
totally.
the Army. The
AI
ranks
was created in the
were
70s.
easy for me. The enlisted ranks in the Air Force were very difficult for me to get. But I finally got the enlisted ranks in the Air Force, even though they're a child of the Army. Army and Marine Corps, no problem. Any rank, anytime I can get that, no problem. Navy, I still have trouble with to this day.
Navy's an oddball. Navy really is an oddball.
Seaman, Petty Officer, 3, 2, 1. Chief Petty Officer, Senior Petty Officer, Chief Petty Officer, Master Chief Petty Officer.
Okay, guys?
Right. But let me tell you something about this.
Petty Officer.
No, there's no rear petty officer in the
rear
no
petty
shit.
officer.
Anyway,
yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, maybe now there is. Maybe now there is. You have a point there. But no, what's interesting is that Marvel Comics actually created G.I. Joe, a real American hero. The story goes is that the president of Hasbro met the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics in the men's room at a convention, and that's where the arrangement was started. And because what G.I. Joe was prior to this was basically he was Barbie. He was one guy named Joe who came in all the uniforms of the United States Navy or of military. And they changed the whole concept. Basically what they did was they G.I. Joe was basically a more colorful version of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then they took S.H.I.E.L.D.'s nemesis Hydra and turned that into Cobra. So they were basically self-plagiarizing. But that was the best way to do it because they already had practice doing, stories about an organization like that. So that's why I think G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, which is the Marvel version, was the one that hit so hard right in the very beginning. That's why it was so effective right away. Was that it was all based off of something that they'd already been doing for years. But yeah. Everybody had a code name, just like on Top Gun, right? So, Roadblock, you had Low Light,
and of course,
if
this was the real military. Every single one of those code names would have been an insult to start out with.
Probably, yeah. Jarhead, They didn't have Jarhead, but they had a guy named Leatherneck. I remember that. Leatherneck is not derogatory.
But
well, dude, you know what? For all our acronyms in the Marine Corps, we actually have a reason for them.
Right.
I can actually tell you why Jarhead is. I can actually tell you why we're called Jarheads.
Well,
I assumed it was the haircut.
Hell, even the word Marine is a acronym for My Ass Rides and Navy Equipment.
No,
Well, the
It
entire
also
time,
is. There's also USMC, Uncle
Yeah.
Sam's
Uncle
Misguided
Sam's
Children.
Misguided Children.
There's also muscle. There's also Marines. Muscles are required. Intelligence non-essential.
And what is the sound of shit hitting the fan?
Hoorah!
Marine.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Marine.
No, Army ain't
Oh,
really
yeah.
a Marine yet.
What is Army?
Oh no! I was gonna say when you wear the Army uniform and you look down and you read your U.S. Army, it reads, "Yes, my retarded ass signed up."
Also, Army stands for aren't really Marines yet.
Yeah, Darren said that one, I think. Making fun of the armed forces on a stream that is currently using a rainbow background. I'm sure this is going to be really popular on rewatch.
Undoubtedly.
What the fuck do I care about it? What the fuck do I care if you are?
I'm just making a joke,
rainbow
Wendy.
flag?
But of course, I didn't serve personally. But I'm the child of my mother was in the Army, my father was in the Navy. So
Stop it, Mike. Stop it. You're gonna attract Sci-Fi Nation. Say that.
Oh,
how's he doing? I haven't
Wait a
seen him around
minute. Is
lately.
there a Sci-Fi Nation? Can they take back over Siffy? I mean, I'd like the Sci-Fi Channel back.
Well, at least, as I said, the Ark was on Sci-Fi Channel, and so it looks like they're finally doing sci-fi programming again. I stopped watching them a long time ago because of that.
I stopped watching them because of Stargate Universe.
Well, see, I liked Stargate Universe.
Hey, man, it had a chance. It just did not deliver.
What is interesting is some of the shows that got a lot of hate back then seem to be more popular now, like Star Trek Enterprise, like Stargate Universe. It's kind of interesting how that ended up working out.
I will never forgive Stargate Universe for turning it into the 10th season, the 200th episode of Stargate SG-1. They did that whole they're going to recast the film so it's all younger generations, and they did that whole drama thing where, dude, we're supposed to be jumping out of here. Hey, I'm getting my Mac on. And then they go to the nerd. You need to punch in the numbers. And he's like, I'm doing it as fast as I can. And then the girl goes, I'm pregnant. And that's exactly what Stargate Universe is.
Yes and no. I mean, I know that it was tonally different, but I still enjoyed it. And I don't mind a TV show that when they have a spinoff, the tone kind of changes. And maybe that's why I'm a fan of, Star Trek Prodigy and Star Trek Lower Decks, because it might be the same spinoff, but it's tonally different from what came before.
I only liked one character out of all of Stargate Universe. And I cannot remember his name. The Malkavian scientist.
Yeah.
I not Zelenka. That was
no, Zelenka was on Atlantis. I liked Atlantis.
I liked Rush. I thought he was very well done.
That's who I'm talking about.
Oh, Rush? Especially
yeah,
the part
the
when they have him freaking out, and the medic person is like, "Okay, how many packs a day did you smoke, and how much coffee did you drink?" Because she explicitly knows that.
No, I like the fact. I like the fact that he actually. I like the fact that he is so obsessed with his work and got so worked up that his body actually crashed on him, and he actually played that out where his body crashed on him. And I was like, He was the best thing about Stargate Universe. He was the only reason I was even watching.
Rush.
Diamond Phillips. And my whole thing was I was kind of like, wait a minute, these guys can. This is my problem I really had with Stargate Universe. You are possessing somebody else's body, and we watch people have sex in that body.
Yeah,
that is
that
to
was,
me the equivalent of rape.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
Agreed.
Oh my goodness!
And that
Oh my
is
goodness.
well, that is where I could.
And that actually
whether you
happened
agree
because
with me or not, that is where I could not handle that show.
it was
Because
Colonel.
like you're
Colonel
in
what's
somebody
his
else's
name?
body, you're using it. Yes,
Colonel
they
what's
have
his name
consented to it,
and
but I
Lou
don't
Diamond
think
Phillips.
sex is on the menu.
And
Yeah.
and they were screwing each other over, and they were screwing each other's wives over. So yeah, I did not like that.
What
part
was
at
it?
all.
What didn't one character play? Didn't one character pretend to be another character's husband so he could fuck her?
Yeah, exactly. It's the teen drama bullshit that everybody loved about Stargate Universe that I hate so much.
Well, that type of
but
drama
to
I
me-
didn't like.
to
The
me,
type of drama
to-
I like. Hold on.
to
The type of
me,
drama I'm talking
enter-
about. Hold on. The type of drama I was talking about that I enjoyed was the aspects of like them trying to get the air filters to work so they could breathe, trying to get water so they could drink, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
The
Yes.
interpersonal
Yeah, that
stuff
would have been
sometimes got a
fine
little
if it
sticky.
had been there. Yes, that would have been fine if that had been maybe all of it. But the point is, like I said, I can't get over the fact that I watched an episode where literally one of the characters pretends to be the husband of another character to have sex with the wife, basically raping her because she doesn't realize it's not him.
And
Now-
using somebody else's body to do it. I mean, it's rape on both
Yeah,
sides.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I could not reconcile that as acceptable. I
On
just can't.
so many levels, that show was just not right on so many levels. But anyway, Dr. Rush, the guy who was trying to figure everything else out, he played Rumpelstiltskin, right? On
Yeah, he played Rumpelstiltskin, which I thought he
Okay.
did a very good job in that series.
All right. What do you mean he played Rumpelstiltskin? I'm not familiar with that.
He played in this show. Oh shit, what was it called?
it was on ABC. It's
Yeah, it was on ABC. Anyway, the show was basically fairy tales. The evil queen cast a curse. Everybody ended up in somewhere in Maine in this fictional town. Everybody lost their memory. You had all the different like fairy tale characters, and he played Rumpelstiltskin, which ended up being a hybrid of also being not only Rumpelstiltskin, but also being the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, because his love interest was Belle.
oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I
remember
have no
he was
idea
the
what show you're talking about.
Once Upon a
the
Time.
show was Once Upon a Time. Yeah,
Sorry, I never
the show
watched
was
it.
called Once Upon a Time. What happens is,
I watched it because I was
Cinderella
married.
and the prince do have a child. The child ends up, the evil queen, creates a curse. They send their child to our world. She ends up having a child, and that child connects all the dots.
Thank you, Yvette. Yeah, I watched it because I was married at the time, not because I liked the show.
Oh, I
Okay,
love this show. I love the show. I did not watch the last season because it was kind of a soft reboot, and it was kind of like, no, this is good where it ends.
I just got an email.
It had a Mike.
Is that what
Have
you're
you
posting in
ever
the private
seen that
chat?
show House? Have you ever seen that medical drama House?
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it, despite the fact that House was a psychotic that in real life would have been put in jail for
Oh,
the
definitely.
first episode.
Definitely would
yeah,
have been
but
put in
that's
jail.
why that's why. Okay, remember the first female character in there, the one who hooked up and got married and then got divorced?
I'd have to know more about it because I don't remember
You're-
the character.
You're asking a CNA stream about characters from 10 to 20 years ago.
Well,
Really?
we did Jeff Nerdity. He's asked harder questions on Jeff Nerdity.
Right,
I just want to put this out.
Anyway, the chick who was in the first, the chick who was in House, who was part of the first few seasons, was the lead actor in Once Upon a Time.
No, she
And it
wasn't.
was
She
ultimately
was
a
in
decent
it, but
show.
she wasn't the lead actor.
Yes, she was.
I need to step in here for a second. I got an email. I'm a silver stacker, so I get an email from AppMex. They have released 10-ounce silver bars made to look like bars of Beskar steel from The Mandalorian. I put a link in the private chat. It's kind of neat. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, are you talking about
how
Jennifer
much we
Morrison?
talking here?
Jennifer Morrison, yes.
Okay, I thought she played 13. Or is that somebody else?
No, 13 came way later. That is, oh, God, I can't even
For
think
the
of that
love of
chick's
everything.
name.
You're going to make me pull up IMDb, aren't you?
I'm gonna pull up House. God damn it, Mike.
I love how we go off the rails on this show.
Well,
Oh,
that's because
shit,
it's a good bet.
Darren. This is actually, I have an account with these people.
Okay, Olivia Wilde played 13.
Yes, Olivia Wilde.
Right. Jennifer
But what I'm
Morrison
saying
was
to
in Once Upon a
Darren
Time.
is I actually have an account with Ampex.
For God's sake. Off topic again. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there since somebody mentioned, mentioned Mandalorian.
Hey. Dude, this is nice looking silver.
I have nice looking silver in my drawer. Don't need to buy any more.
Hey,
Most of the silver I have is in coin form.
Well, I've got a lot of silver in coin form, but I actually have silver.
I normally buy it in 10-ounce bars. That's how I like it. But once I get,
you go 10 ounce.
The thing is, I've got one chest, and so now I'm going to be converting silver bars into gold because obviously gold's 47 times more valuable. So I can have a lot more.
Well, folks, I am
stuff.
going to wander down Main Street and look at all the old classic cars. There's a car show this weekend in my town, so
nice.
I'm gonna go wander downtown and look at all the classic cars. So you guys have a great night or a great day, I should say. I haven't slept yet, so let's find out what happens.
Oh, it's funny, Darren. I also have a little. It's basically a jewelry box, but it looks like a miniature treasure chest. So I use it to hold all my silver coins. And I got mostly silver 50-cent pieces, silver dimes, silver quarters from, I'd say, the mid 19th century to the mid 20th century.
Yeah, mine's have got about twice the internal volume of a shoebox. And I said to myself,
Darren.
Yeah.
What good is this going to do me, man? They say they're out of stock.
Oh, what I was saying is that I got an email that said that, hey, they're going to be back in stock later this week. So
okay,
that's why.
Well, I hope so because I'd love to pick up a bar or two like that.
Oh yeah, they're nice, and they have 1 ounce bars too. But obviously,
I have ounce, half ounce, quarter ounces, but I don't have any bars, and that just looks beautiful. How much are they going for these? 200, 300?
Well, if it was just silver, 10 ounces is probably around $300. But you can expect a premium because it's related to Star Wars.
Oh yeah, what are you thinking? 4 or 5?
Oh, probably at least a markup of $60 to $80. That's a guess.
I think it's worth it. That is just pretty.
Well,
So you
apparently
said you're going to convert some.
I just, because I was interested if they've ever actually done it, and they actually do have 20 or made of gold replicas for gold press latinum as well.
Yeah, funny.
They've got some of the slips, strips, and bars, but none of the actual bricks because apparently they're too much gold.
Yeah. At that point, yeah.
Yeah, this is
I love the fact that you actually know slips, strips, bars, and bricks.
Oh yeah,
well, it's from the show. Come on,
from the show. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but I mean, how many
series,
people are really going to remember that about gold press latinum?
Yeah, you have to really like the Ferengi and like them on that show. I mean, that's that when I remember a line particularly from Quark when somebody said, "I've got latinum," and he looks at him and goes, "Slips, strips, bars."
No, that was wrong. Remember, he's trying to get Rom to do something, and he goes, slips. He offers him a number, and he goes, slips, strips, or bars.
Right.
He goes,
right.
slips. No,
we only saw bricks.
Not
once,
even. Oh yeah, that was when Nog was going to the academy.
No, it was when Morn died or fakely dead.
That's right.
And they had He even complains they're just filled with worthless gold.
Yeah, they're not. They don't have
You're thinking about the brick episode.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The bricks.
Yeah, I was talking about the slip, strips, and bars. Quote.
Right, we shifted. We pivoted on you.
Yeah, we shifted. Yeah.
But what was interesting about that was when we first saw the Ferengi, they still did recognize the value of gold.
Yep, back in.
But that changed later. Latinum became their thing, which is interesting because latinum is a liquid, and the only thing that makes it valuable is the fact that it cannot be replicated. That's why it's their currency.
Yep.
Well, that was always an interesting thing because of the whole point of replicators. It was a great idea, but it should have been limited in some capacity. And I think that Star Trek did that well, like with that one episode where the doctor tried to replicate a vaccine and realized it can't be replicated.
Right. Well,
and it was like it was the first time it was stated, okay, replicators aren't perfect.
Gold pressed latinum wasn't introduced until after Roddenberry died because Roddenberry was adamant that no currency existed on the show. And of course the writer's like, well, what about all the aliens that aren't in the Federation? They have to have something. And they got tired of arguing with him because he was a real pain in the ass towards the end of his life.
Yeah, as much as I like the idea of a socialist utopia, I don't think there's ever going to be a use for some sort of currency.
Right.
Well, I would say the closest thing you would probably see to that is a Brazilian series I saw called 3%. And trust me, it's not exactly the utopia you'd want.
Well, what I mean is, there's always going to be a need for a medium of exchange, regardless of whether it's goods or services. You're going to need a medium of exchange.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's bartering,
chickens, eggs.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's going to be bartering, trading. That's where I always thought was one of the biggest problems. Was, okay, I understand promoting on a merit-based system. I get that. But promoting on a merit-based system, we as a society means there's a value that comes with that. And usually we think of it as a monetary value. So, what is the purpose of bettering yourself if you really don't gain anything? For example, if you're an ensign and you become a captain, yeah, you got privileges, but how do you quantify that?
Right.
That's very hard for people like us to quantify,
Right.
if that makes sense.
There are people
even in
who would
the
not.
early episodes of Voyager, they tried to use holodeck time as a medium of a currency.
Right.
And I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it. It's something
Yeah.
small, stupid, but it's easily doable on a ship.
Especially in their case because they're isolated.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are
Well,
people
when
who
I
would.
was in the field, I was the hazmat NCO, and do you know what my currency was? Batteries.
Yeah,
I could trade battery. I
Hold
would
on.
trade batteries for cigarettes. I could trade them for cell phone time. Mind you, I'm talking back in the early 2000s. So,
All right. Well,
currency.
hold on. NB, I don't want to interrupt too much, but Darren had something to say, and then I'm going to go ahead and end the stream because it's 11 o'clock and I need to do some stuff.
Oh, shit. Yeah, it is late, bud.
So go ahead, Darren.
I was gonna
just
say,
finish what you thought you were going to have, and then I'm going to end the stream.
That's why I liked Nog and Starfleet, because that opened up a whole other thing that hadn't been explored yet about the alternate currency that military members use. Where Nog became one of those guys who could get you things outside the normal supply channels.
Yeah.
And, guys like that exist, and he was one of them, and I thought that was neat.
Oh, I agree.
I agree with you, and may the great material continuum protect all of you guys, but I got stuff to do. So later, folks.
Yeah.
Later.
Later.